Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales. Chapter 714. What's wrong? The second prince looked at him suspiciously. Feng Yun immediately recounted what had happened earlier in detail. So that's how it is. The second prince nodded his head in realization. The compensation this time is too big. If my family finds out, they will definitely not let me off easily. So, I hope that your highness can help me think of a way. Feng Yun pleaded. This was his real purpose for looking for the second prince. The second prince hesitated for a moment and shook his head. You know that I've been competing with my brothers for the potential pill recently, so I really can't help. On the surface, it sounded nice, but in fact, he was sneering in his heart. He didn't even do what he asked him to do, and he still wanted him to pay. What a daydream. Your Highness, I'm working for you now, can't you help me? Feng Yun was anxious. I want to help you too, but there's nothing I can do. You have to think of another way. After the second prince finished speaking, he directly turned off the image crystal. All of you are bastards. Feng Yun was so angry that he roared in the alchemy room. And then there was Qin Feiyang. Returning to the alchemy room, he consumed a healing pill and prepared to head to the Fragrant Moon Inn. Buzz. Suddenly, the image crystal rang. He took it out and saw that it was the first prince. The first prince looked at Qin Feiyang with a smile and said, Brother Qin, the previous battle was really amazing. Qin Feiyang laughed, I didn't expect your highness to receive the news so quickly. In the temple, as long as it's something I want to know, no one can hide it from me. And this time, you did very well. Not only did you suppress my second brother's arrogance, you also caused the Qianwu Marquis family to suffer heavy losses. Tell me, what reward do you want? The first prince smiled in relief. Reward? Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, and he said with a faint smile, It's just a small matter, forget about the reward. This matter is indeed nothing, but my 13th brother's matter is not a small matter. Just say it, as long as I can satisfy you, I will satisfy you. The first prince said. In that case, Qin Feiyang hesitated for a moment and said, I'm very interested in the imperial palace and want to take a look. What do you think? That won't do. The eldest prince shook his head. Why? Qin Feiyang furrowed his brows and asked. You'll definitely be interrogated by the guards if you come to the imperial palace. If you take out the crown prince token, won't our relationship be exposed? The first prince said. That makes sense. Qin Feiyang nodded. The first prince smiled and said, So just bear with it for now. There will be plenty of time in the future. There will be opportunities in the future. Yes. Qin Feiyang responded. Although she was eager to see her mother, some things couldn't be rushed. After pondering for a moment, he cupped his hands and said, Then your highness, please bestow upon me a few perfect battle arts. How many types? The first prince's face twitched and said helplessly, The imperial palace does not lack perfect battle arts, but they are not cabbages. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, Then I don't know what to ask for. Just give it to me. The first prince thought for a moment and said with a smile, Aren't you an alchemist? Then I'll give you a 5th-grade cauldron. A 5th-grade cauldron. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. The cauldrons he had now were all 4th-grade cauldrons and could still be used. But when the Nether Devil Flame was upgraded to the 6th grade, these 4th-grade cauldrons would be useless. Because a cauldron would explode if he didn't control it well. Therefore, a 5th-grade cauldron was a good choice. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said, Thank you, your highness. It's fine. I'll ask Zhuge Mingyang to send it to you later. During this period, you'd better behave and not attract too much attention. Because as far as I know, the invincible Black Army hasn't given up their suspicion of you. The first prince warned. Still suspecting me? Qin Feiyang frowned. The first prince nodded and said, "Yes, so you must be careful." "I know." Qin Feiyang nodded. "Then that's it." The first prince smiled, and the phantom image quickly dissipated. Qin Feiyang put away the image crystal and frowned. Originally, he planned to go to the Fragrant Moon brothel and find the owner of the Fragrant Moon brothel to see if he could get the 5th grade cauldron fire. But now it seemed that he couldn't go to the Fragrant Moon brothel for the time being. Because once the people of the Imperial Palace received the news, it wouldn't be as simple as suspicion. At that time, he might even be captured and tortured. In less than half an hour, Zhuge Mingyang came with the cauldron. This cauldron was scarlet red, as if it was cast from magma, and a lifelike dragon was engraved on it. According to Zhuge Mingyang, this cauldron was called the Jiao Dragon Cauldron, and it was one of the best among the 5th grade cauldrons. Qin Feiyang thanked Zhuge Mingyang and sent him away. After Qin Feiyang dripped blood on it, he also took the Jiao Dragon Cauldron into the castle and continued to copy the kill formula. At the same time, in the first prince's palace, the first prince looked down at Zhuge Mingyang and asked, "Is he satisfied with the cauldron?" "I don't know. Because his expression is extremely calm, I really can't guess what he's thinking." Zhuge Mingyang shook his head. "If he's not satisfied with the 5th grade cauldron, then he's too greedy. Greedy people can't be kept alive." The first prince sneered. Zhuge Mingyang frowned as if he wanted to say something, but he didn't say it. After a moment of silence, a glint flashed across the first prince's eyes as he asked, "Don't you think we should do something?" "What do you mean?" Zhuge Mingyang looked at him suspiciously. Right now, the invincible Black Army is still suspicious of Qin Feiyang. If we don't get rid of this problem quickly, I'm afraid that Qin Feiyang will accidentally reveal a flaw and implicate us. The first prince said worriedly. Although the 13th prince was killed by Qin Feiyang, they also had accomplices. If this matter was exposed, they would more or less be affected. Zhuge Mingyang's pupils shrank when he heard this. He said in surprise, "Your Highness, you're not planning to kill him, are you?" "Kill him?" The first prince was taken aback. He shook his head and said with a smile, "Qin Feiyang is too valuable. How could I bear to kill him?" "Then Your Highness, what do you mean?" Zhuge Mingyang was puzzled. The first prince said, "I mean to find a scapegoat. As long as the culprit is caught, the invincible Black Army will naturally not suspect Qin Feiyang." A scapegoat, Zhuge Mingyang pondered for a while and said with a smile, "Your Highness is wise. I'll take care of this. You must do it well. Don't make any mistakes." The first prince said, "Don't worry. As long as you're willing to pay the price, there will naturally be someone willing to be the scapegoat." Zhuge Mingyang smiled confidently. In less than 3 days, an explosive piece of news spread throughout the capital city. The culprit who murdered the 13th prince and Lin Dian had been caught. Moreover, he had been executed by the invincible Black Army's commander. On the same day, Lu Xingchen found Qin Feiyang. Alchemy Room 701. The stone door was tightly shut. Lu Xingchen waved his hand. 2 chairs and a tea table appeared on the ground. Lu Xingchen sat on one of the chairs and looked at Qin Feiyang. He said with a smile, "Sit down and talk." As he spoke, he took out a tea set. Qin Feiyang looked at Lu Xingchen in confusion. He sat opposite Lu Xingchen and asked, "What's going on?" "Just now, I heard something very interesting," Lu Xingchen said with a smile while making tea. "What is it?" Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Lu Xingchen said with a smile, "The real culprit, who murdered the 13th prince and Lin Dian has been caught and executed." Qin Feiyang was stunned. "Wasn't he the real culprit? Isn't he still alive and well?" "I guessed it. You're a cultivation maniac. Lu Xingchen shook his head and said with a smile. What's going on? Who's the real culprit they caught? Qin Feiyang urged. Lu Xingchen took a sip of tea and said with a smile, You'll never know who this real culprit is. Hurry up and tell me. Don't keep me in suspense. Qin Feiyang said impatiently. Lu Xingchen put down the teacup and said with a serious face, The deacon elder who guards the martial arts hall. How is that possible? Qin Feiyang frowned. I'm also very confused. But this deacon elder had already confessed in front of the commander of the invincible Black Army that it was because the 13th prince and Lin Dian discovered his secret that he killed them. As for what the secret was, the elder didn't say it until he died. The Lin clan also wanted to ask him for the 5th grade alchemy fire, but they didn't get it. According to the elder's confession, the alchemy fire was destroyed by him. Lu Xingchen said. Qin Feiyang said, Nonsense. He's not the real culprit. Where did the alchemy fire come from? Where did the secret come from? It's just a fabricated motive. I know that. But the strange thing is, why did he take the blame? Lu Xingchen said. Yes, why? Qin Feiyang lowered his head and was also very puzzled. Murdering a prince was a capital offense. Others would try to avoid it, but this person actually took the initiative to take the blame. Did he want to die? But there were other ways to die. Lu Xingchen suddenly said, I think there's a plot behind this. Plot? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. Buzz. At this moment, Qin Feiyang's image crystal stone rang. I'll leave for a moment. Lu Xingchen stood up and walked to the corner beside the stone door. Qin Feiyang took out the image crystal stone suspiciously and poured his battle qi into it. Zhuge Mingyang's shadow immediately appeared. Zhuge Mingyang said with a smile, Brother Qin, have you heard the news that the real culprit has appeared? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Looking at the smile on Zhuge Mingyang's face, he seemed to understand something and asked, You're the one behind this? Brother Qin, you're really insightful. I can't hide anything from you. Zhuge Mingyang smiled slightly. The culprit is a deacon elder of the Divine Hall. I can't believe he was willing to be the scapegoat. Brother Zhuge, I have to admit that you're really good. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Compared to Brother Qin, what is this little scheme of mine? I'm sending you a message to inform you that you don't have to hide anything in the future. Zhuge Mingyang said. Do I need to hide anything? Besides, you're not doing this just for me, but also for yourself. Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile. It doesn't matter whether it's for me or for you. The important thing is that the problem has been solved, isn't it? Well, I'm going back to work. As Zhuge Mingyang's voice fell, the shadow quickly disintegrated. Lu Xingchen returned to his seat and asked, Do you think the first prince knows about this? Qin Feiyang said, Is there a need to think about it? He definitely knows. Maybe it was the first prince's idea. These people are really ruthless. And the intrigue of the imperial palace is really scary. Fortunately, I didn't get involved. Lu Xingchen shook his head and smiled. In the imperial palace, if you don't have a brain, you'll only end up as cannon fodder. Chapter 7:15. Cannon fodder? Lu Xingchen pondered for a moment, then nodded, That's true. After a pause, he smiled and said, It's quite boring to cultivate every day. Why don't we go out for a stroll? Where to? Qin Feiyang asked. Lu Xingchen smiled and said, I heard that the Fragrant Moon brothel is very famous. I haven't been there for so long, so I might as well go to the Fragrant Moon brothel. Fragrant Moon brothel? Qin Feiyang muttered, his eyes flashing, and nodded, Okay, let's go to the Fragrant Moon brothel. Now that the crisis had been resolved, it was time to find the owner of the fragrant moon brothel and ask for the 5th-grade pill fire. But just as he got up, Qin Feiyang suddenly looked straight at Lu Xingchen, a trace of surprise in his eyes. "What's wrong?" Lu Xingchen looked at him in confusion. Qin Feiyang frowned. "Your aura is stronger than before, could it be?" Lu Xingchen nodded. "Yes, I have already broken through to the 4-star War Master." "So fast?" Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded. Lu Xingchen smiled. "Aren't you also quite fast? How long have you been in the temple?" "You've already broken through to the 2-star War Master." He. Qin Feiyang put on a fake smile, then opened a teleportation door and took the lead to walk in. Lu Xingchen followed closely behind. The next moment, the two of them directly descended in front of the entrance of the fragrant moon brothel. When the two waiters standing at the door saw Qin Feiyang appear, they put on a flattering smile and said, "Young Master Qin, please come in." Qin Feiyang said, "Arrange a private room for me." Lu Xingchen waved his hand and smiled. "What private room? Just find a place in the lobby." This, Qin Feiyang frowned and nodded, "All right." Seeing Qin Feiyang nod, the shop assistant smiled and said, "Please follow me." Under the guidance of the waiter, the two of them arrived at a table in the middle of the hall. In the meantime, as soon as the two of them walked in, the noisy fragrant moon brothel immediately quieted down. All eyes were on Qin Feiyang. After the two of them were seated, the waiter asked, "Young Master Qin, what would you like to order?" Qin Feiyang said, "Just a few dishes and 2 pots of wine will do." "All right. Young masters, please wait for a moment." The waiter shouted, then turned around and ran to the kitchen. "What do you mean? You clearly know that everyone in the capital knows about me, yet you still let me sit in the main hall?" Qin Feiyang looked at Lu Xingchen and asked through voice transmission. Lu Xingchen smiled faintly. "In the private room, it's just the two of us drinking, how boring, but here, look at how lively it is." Qin Feiyang looked around and saw that everyone was staring at him. He couldn't help but frown. Lu Xingchen laughed. "It's not like you haven't seen the world, what are you afraid of?" "All right, I'll drink with you here," Qin Feiyang said helplessly. Originally, he still wanted to find the owner of the fragrant moon brothel, but now that everyone was watching, it was obviously impossible. Suddenly, around him, young people stood up one after another, each holding a wine glass in their hands, and walked towards Qin Feiyang. "Trouble is coming." Qin Feiyang rubbed his forehead. "Brother Qin, I'm the young master of the Li family in the 2nd district, can I have the honor of treating you to a drink?" A young man in white smiled. The others also introduced themselves one after another. Qin Feiyang stood up and pointed to Lu Xingchen, smiling, "Everyone, I'm sorry, this Qin is entertaining this distinguished guest, if there's a chance in the future, I'll drink with you." Distinguished guest. Everyone was stunned and looked at Lu Xingchen. Lu Xingchen touched his nose, his face twitching non-stop. When did he become a distinguished guest? The young man in white looked at Lu Xingchen, cupped his hands and smiled. "May I ask how to address you, brother?" To be able to become Qin Feiyang's distinguished guest, his identity was definitely not simple. Such a person had to be fawned over. Lu Xingchen smiled, "I'm just a nobody, don't take it to heart." A nobody could make Qin Feiyang personally entertain him? Obviously. This person was not telling the truth. But everyone didn't continue to ask, so they turned and left resentfully. Qin Feiyang also returned to his seat, a smile at the corner of his mouth. "You really have a bad heart." Lu Xingchen rolled his eyes at him. Qin Feiyang said lightly, "You insisted on sitting in the lobby, who's to blame?" "Okay. I'll tell you the truth, in fact, I asked you to sit in the lobby because I want you to meet 2 people. Lu Xingchen transmitted his voice. "Sure enough, it's not that simple." Qin Feiyang muttered and asked, "Who?" "You'll know later." Lu Xingchen smiled mysteriously. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, "So, this is not the first time you've come to Fragrant Moon Brothel?" Lu Xingchen said, "This is the third time." Qin Feiyang looked at him meaningfully and fell silent. The waiter soon served the wine and dishes. While Qin Feiyang was drinking, his eyes were always looking around. Those who could enter Fragrant Moon Brothel were basically the children of the rich families in the capital. And these people, without exception, were all playboys who only knew how to drink and dream all day long. So, most of them had a woman sitting next to them. These women were dressed gorgeously, with heavy makeup, sexy and enchanting. They were the specially trained hostesses of Fragrant Moon Brothel. Their voices were soft and numb. Their manners were wanton. The scene was extremely erotic. There were even many women who were throwing coquettish glances at Qin Feiyang from a distance. Lu Xingchen teased, "Brother Qin, seeing that you can't take your eyes off them, do you want to call one over to drink with you?" Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. He just wanted to see who Lu Xingchen wanted him to meet. That was all. Time flew. The sun set in the west, and night fell. Ding dong. Suddenly, a melodious sound of the zither slowly rose. The sound of the zither was gentle and lingering. Then, another crisp and pleasant sound of the flute, accompanied by the sound of the zither, spread in Fragrant Moon Brothel. At this moment, everyone raised their heads and looked at the top floor of Fragrant Moon Brothel in silence. And even the people in the private rooms came out. At the same time, Lu Xingchen also put down his wine glass and looked up, with a faint smile in his eyes. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang also looked up, but he didn't see the person playing the zither and the flute at all. The sound of the zither and the flute came from two different rooms on the top floor. "Brother Qin, the person I want you to meet is the person playing the zither and the flute," Lu Xingchen said with a faint smile. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, "Who is it?" "Sure." Lu Xingchen made a gesture of silence and said, "Listen carefully to the sound of the zither and the flute, there is a lot of information hidden in them." "A lot of information?" Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned, calmed down, and listened silently. The sound of the zither and the flute were very beautiful, like the sound of nature. But gradually, Qin Feiyang felt a deep sense of helplessness, despair, sadness, and a trace of desolation in the sound of the zither and the flute. What's going on? Why are there such complicated emotions mixed in? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. A moment later, Lu Xingchen suddenly retracted his gaze and said, "Brother Qin, I want to give you a surprise." "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang was a little annoyed. Since entering the Fragrant Moon Brothel, Lu Xingchen had been keeping him in suspense. But before his voice fell, the sound of the zither and the flute disappeared. At the same time, a middle-aged woman in a red robe came out from a room on the top floor. The middle-aged woman looked at the guests below and said with a smile, "Everyone, it's still the same old rules, the highest bidder wins. 100,000. 200,000. 300,000. 1,000,000. At that moment, everyone began to scramble to be the first to bid. Qin Feiyang looked at it strangely, was this an auction? Lu Xingchen suddenly raised his hand and said with a smile, "I bid 200 million, I want both of them." Swish! At that moment, everyone in the Fragrant Moon Brothel looked at Lu Xingchen in unison. Seeing Qin Feiyang sitting next to him, the look in their eyes changed. No one bid anymore. The middle-aged woman smiled and said, "So it's the famous young Master Qin, congratulations to the two of you, please go upstairs." Lu Xingchen laughed, "Brother Qin, this is my surprise for you, quickly go up." "Speak clearly," Qin Feiyang secretly shouted. Lu Xingchen said, "As long as you go up, I don't need to say anything, you will naturally know." Qin Feiyang frowned and raised his head to look at the middle-aged woman. He leaped up and landed beside the middle-aged woman. First Prince, when Qin Feiyang knows about their current situation, you will be completely finished, just wait. Lu Xingchen muttered, a strange light flashing in his eyes. He picked up the wine pot, sat there alone, and drank by himself. The top floor. The middle-aged woman was still charming, dressed coquettishly, and exuded a strong smell of perfume. Qin Feiyang was a little disgusted. He felt that this person was like a brothel's procuress. The middle-aged woman smiled. I didn't expect young Master Qin to be a romantic person, please follow me. Finished. The middle-aged woman turned around and walked towards a private room called Spring Pavilion. Romantic person? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and followed. Walking to the front of the Spring Pavilion, the middle-aged woman pushed open the door, then stepped aside and said with a smile, Young Master Qin, please come in. Qin Feiyang walked to the door and looked inside. This private room was very large, at least a few hundred feet, but there was no dining room, only a tea room and a bedroom. But the layout inside was quite. Qin Feiyang didn't know how to describe it. The entire floor was covered with a pink carpet. The silk curtains hanging on the wall, the bedding on the bed in the bedroom, and the bedsheets were also a brand new pink. It gave people the feeling that this was a place for indulgence. Qin Feiyang immediately realized that he had been tricked by Lu Xingchen. Seeing that Qin Feiyang didn't move, the middle-aged woman smiled, Young Master Qin, if you are not satisfied, I will get someone to redecorate for you. There is no need. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and braced himself to walk in. A faint fragrance assailed his nose. As soon as this fragrance entered his body, Qin Feiyang felt that his heart began to heat up. It was as if some kind of desire had been aroused. Qin Feiyang stood in the middle of the private room, looking around, and suddenly found an incense burner beside the bed in the bedroom. Wisps of green smoke were floating out of the incense burner. And the fragrance came from the green smoke. Chapter 7:16. Because in this incense burner, there was a kind of leaf called spring grass. This spring grass leaf, after being dried and burned in the incense burner, would emit a green smoke with a delicate fragrance. And this delicate fragrance had the effect of aphrodisiac. So, this was simply a place to indulge in debauchery. Qin Feiyang was about to flick his sleeves and leave. But at this time, the middle-aged woman smiled and said, Young Master Qin, after they bathe and change clothes, they will come to serve you. Please wait for a moment. After saying that, she directly closed the door. Qin Feiyang was angry. She had said it so straightforwardly. If he still didn't understand, then he was a fool. But just as he walked to the door and was about to slam the door and leave, he suddenly put down his arm. He knew Lu Xingchen quite well. It was impossible for him to do such a boring thing. Was he hinting at something? Or, this so-called person who served him had some relationship with him? Thinking of this, he simply stayed, walked into the bedroom, extinguished the spring grass leaf in the incense burner, and then entered the tea room, sat on the chair, and looked at the closed door. Time passed breath by breath. About an hour later, Qin Feiyang was about to fall asleep, and the door finally opened. Two women in pink dresses entered the door one after another. Qin Feiyang heard the movement, rubbed his eyes, and looked up. He didn't know if he didn't see, but when he saw, he suddenly stood up, his face was full of disbelief. How could it be them? Could it be that my eyes are playing tricks on me? He kept muttering in his heart, rubbed his eyes hard, and looked again. Impossible. This time. His hands suddenly clenched tightly, and a shocking anger rose in his eyes. Those two women looked very attractive. Delicate skin, broken with a flick of the finger. Two snow-white long legs, faintly visible under the pink dress, tugged at the heartstrings. Bright big eyes, like a pool of autumn water. And on their faces, no makeup could be found. Everything seemed very natural. But compared to the women outside with heavy makeup, they were simply like fairies. Greetings, young Master Qin. After the two women closed the door, they walked into the tea room and bowed to Qin Feiyang. However, Qin Feiyang didn't seem to hear him and stared at the two of them. Seeing this, a sense of disgust rose in the hearts of the two women, but they concealed it very well. Young Master Qin, the night is long. It's time to rest. The two women stepped forward and pulled Qin Feiyang towards the bed. But as soon as he entered the bedroom, Qin Feiyang came back to his senses and hurriedly took 2 steps back. He stretched out his hand and said, "Wait. What happened?" The two girls looked at him in confusion. Qin Feiyang said, "Tell me, what are your names?" "Name?" The two women were stunned. One of them said, "Young master can call us she, and you, Qin Feiyang said, "I want to hear your real names." As soon as the two women heard this, they lowered their heads, and there was a faint mist in their eyes. Qin Feiyang was silent for a long time. He stepped forward, lifted their chins, and looked at their faces. His eyes gradually became soft. "You don't want to say your real names? Do you not want to lose face for the 14th prince?" Qin Feiyang asked. Their eyes trembled, and tears suddenly burst out of their eyes. "Tell me, why? Why did you stay in the fragrant moon house? And why should it be placed outside like an item for those men to bid on and spoil?" Qin Feiyang said. His gentle gaze became incomparably fierce. The two women didn't dare to look directly at him. They lowered their heads again and silently shed tears. Looking at the tears on their faces, Qin Feiyang's heart suddenly burst with a strong anger. He roared, "Qin Yu, Qin Shi, tell me, why?" That's right. These two women were his maids in the past. Qin Yu, Qin Shi. Back then, when they were expelled from the imperial capital, the two women were already 15 or 16 years old. Over the years, their appearance didn't change much. So before, he recognized them at a glance. In the past, he had always treated them as sisters. In private, he even called them Sister Yu and Sister Shi. But he never expected that. After more than 10 years, they would meet here. And they were reduced to prostitutes in the fragrant moon house. How could this not make him angry? After a long time, Qin Shi and Qin Yu wiped their tears. Qin Yu said with a smile, "Young master, this is our private matter. Please don't interfere." But the smile was very stiff. Qin Feiyang even found a trace of unconcealable pain in their eyes. Huff. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath, walked into the tea room, sat down at the tea table, and said, "Sit down and talk." The two women looked at each other, their eyes full of suspicion. Wasn't this person here to have fun? Why didn't he look like that at all? Qin Feiyang said expressionlessly, "I don't want to say it a second time." The two women's delicate bodies trembled as they obediently sat across from Qin Feiyang. Looking at the two women's current appearance, Qin Feiyang was extremely distressed, and said, "Tell me, why are you in the fragrant moon house?" "Young master," Qin Shi was about to speak. Qin Feiyang shouted, "Speak." His patience was about to be worn out. The two women lowered their heads and didn't speak. "Back then, the 14th prince gave you names and treated you like family. Is this how you repay him?" Qin Feiyang couldn't help but slam the tea table and said angrily, "We don't want to. We also know that we are discrediting His Highness by doing this. But this is the decree of the first prince. What can we do?" Qin Feiyang's aggressiveness also made Qin Shi and Qin Yu angry. They glared at Qin Feiyang, their faces full of grievance and helplessness. "What? The first prince?" Qin Feiyang suddenly stood up. That's right. More than 10 years ago, when the 14th prince's cultivation was destroyed and he was expelled from the imperial palace, the first prince forcefully raped and defiled us. And in order to take revenge on his highness, he even let us enter the fragrant moon house to serve those disgusting men. We have long wanted to die. But he used our family to threaten us. We had no choice. The two women hugged each other and cried bitterly. Their bodies were full of sorrow. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang's body and mind trembled. It turned out that all of this was because of him. This damn first prince, he didn't even let go of his maids. This was simply unforgivable. He lowered his head and looked at the two women, his eyes full of guilt. "I'm sorry," he said silently in his heart and returned to his seat. After pondering for a moment, he said, "Go and call the procuress here." The two immediately raised their heads and looked at Qin Feiyang with tears in their eyes. "Go quickly." Qin Feiyang smiled. Looking at the smile on Qin Feiyang's face, the two women suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity in their hearts. Qin Yu wiped away her tears and looked at Qin Shi. Go and call the procuress. I have a few words to ask young Master Qin." "Okay." Qin Shi nodded, got up and walked out of the tea room. She opened the door and walked straight out, then closed the door again. Qin Yu also retracted her gaze and looked at Qin Feiyang. She asked suspiciously, "Young master, may I ask how you know that His Highness treated us like family back then?" Qin Feiyang said, "I heard it from someone else. Not many people know about the relationship between His Highness and us. Everyone only knows that we are His Highness's maids." "Young master, may I ask who you heard it from?" Qin Yu asked, her eyes somewhat vigilant. Qin Feiyang directly took out the crown prince token. "What? You are the first prince's maid?" Seeing the crown prince token, Qin Yu suddenly panicked. "Yes. But don't be afraid, I won't hurt you." Qin Feiyang smiled. Creak. At this time, the door opened. Qin Shi and the middle-aged woman walked in one after the other. Qin Feiyang also immediately put away the crown prince token. "Young Master Qin, what's the matter? Is it because they didn't treat you well? Tell me, I will definitely punish them severely." As soon as the middle-aged woman came in, she came to Qin Feiyang and asked with a smile. "Don't get so close." Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and said in disgust. The smile on the middle-aged woman's face froze. She took a few steps back and said with a smile, "Young master." Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said, "Don't talk nonsense, name a price." "Name a price?" The middle-aged woman was slightly stunned. Qin Shi and Qin Yu also looked at Qin Feiyang in confusion. Qin Feiyang said lightly, "I want to take them away." "Take them away?" The middle-aged woman was completely stunned. When she came back to her senses, she hurriedly said, "Young master, you can't do that." "Why?" Qin Feiyang frowned. Qin Yu and Qin Shi's background is not simple. Someone deliberately arranged for them to be in the fragrant moon brothel. And this person, neither you nor I can afford to offend. The middle-aged woman hurriedly explained. Qin Feiyang frowned. The person the middle-aged woman was talking about was obviously the first prince. But he must take Qin Yu and Qin Shi away today. Qin Feiyang's face turned cold, and he said, "Since you can't make the decision, then ask your brothel master to come." "You still want to disturb the brothel master?" Qin Yu and Qin Shi's expressions changed and they were about to say something. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and looked at the brothel keeper. His eyes were like sharp blades, and he said, "Didn't you hear? Go and ask your brothel master to come here." Okay, I'll go right away." The brothel keeper's eyes trembled, and she quickly turned around and trotted out. "Young master, thank you for your kindness, but this matter involves too much." I hope young master won't bring trouble to yourself. Qin Yu also immediately persuaded. It's okay. This fire can't burn me. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, took out the image crystal, and sent a message to Zhuge Mingyang. Soon, Zhuge Mingyang's shadow appeared. At the same time, Qin Feiyang, Qin Yu, and Qin Shi also appeared in front of Zhuge Mingyang. When he saw Qin Yu and Qin Shi, Zhuge Mingyang was slightly stunned, and he said with a smile, "Brother Qin, you're so carefree. You even went to the fragrant moon brothel. Life is short, so I naturally have to enjoy myself." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, and said, "This time I'm looking for Brother Zhuge because I want to trouble Brother Zhuge to tell His Highness that I want to take Qin Yu and Qin Shi away." "Take them away?" Zhuge Mingyang was stunned, and said, "Do you know their identity?" "Yes. They used to be the maid of the 14th prince." Qin Feiyang nodded. Zhuge Mingyang frowned and asked in confusion, "Why do you want to take them away?" "Well, cough." Qin Feiyang coughed and said with a smile, "I like them, but the fragrant moon brothel won't let them go, so I can only ask the first prince. This is not easy. I'll talk to the first prince and give you an answer later." Chapter 717. As soon as Zhuge Mingyang's shadow disappeared, Qin Yu stood up and bowed, "Young master, thank you very much, but you can't offend the first prince because of us. Please reconsider." Qin Feiyang smiled, "Don't worry, he is afraid of offending me, not me." "Young master," Qin Yu still wanted to say something, but Qin Feiyang waved his hand, "I have made up my mind." This, Qin Yu and Qin Shi looked at each other. They really couldn't understand. They were just strangers who met by chance. Why would this person help them? Wang. Soon, the image crystal rang. The first prince and Zhuge Mingyang's shadow appeared at the same time. "Greetings, Your Highness." Qin Yu and Qin Shi immediately bowed. Although they hated the first prince, they had no choice but to submit to his status. "To be valued by Brother Qin, you are really lucky." The first prince coldly snorted and looked at Qin Feiyang, frowning, "Brother Qin, if you really like women, I can give you a lot." "Why do you like them?" Qin Feiyang smiled, "If I say love at first sight, would you believe me? Only a ghost would believe you." The first prince rolled his eyes and said, "Say it." "What is it?" Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He had long expected that the first prince would get to the bottom of it, so he had already thought of a countermeasure. Cough cough. With a dry cough, Qin Feiyang said awkwardly, "Their skills are good, I like women like them." "Skills are good?" The first prince and Zhuge Mingyang looked at each other. They really didn't expect that Qin Feiyang actually liked this. The first prince smiled, "Since Brother Qin likes them, then I will reluctantly give them to you." Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and smiled, "Then I will thank Your Highness here." The first prince waved his hand, "It's a small matter, let's drink together when we have time." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. "Then you can continue playing. I will inform the owner of the Fragrant Moon Inn." With that, the first prince turned off the image crystal. Huh. As soon as the image crystal was turned off, the first prince couldn't help but laugh, his face full of ridicule. However, Zhuge Mingyang's eyes flickered as he suddenly asked, "Your Highness, don't you find it strange?" "What's strange?" the first prince asked. "According to my sources, this Qin Feiyang isn't someone who covets beauty. But now, he insists on taking Qin Yu and Qin Yu away. Isn't this a little strange?" Zhuge Mingyang frowned. "You're thinking too much. Qin Yu and Qin Shi have been in the Fragrant Moon brothel for more than 10 years and have served countless men. In this aspect, even those experienced men can't resist, let alone Qin Feiyang. This Qin Feiyang looks like a chick at first glance. Once he has tasted the pleasure of a man and a woman, he will naturally indulge in it. Actually, this is good too. At least we can grasp one of his weaknesses. The first prince sneered. Is that so? Zhuge Mingyang muttered. He had a feeling that this matter was not so simple. Fragrant moon brothel. Seeing the first prince nod, Qin Yu and Qin Shi hugged each other and cried silently. It had been more than 10 years. They had suffered mental torture every day and lived a life worse than death. Now that they were finally free, they couldn't help but shed tears of joy. Qin Feiyang didn't say anything and just looked at them silently. He could understand the feelings of the two women at this moment. Because these years were also like years for him. Dong! A moment later. There was a knock on the door. Qin Yu and Qin Shi wiped away their tears, tidied up their messy long hair, and looked at Qin Feiyang. Qin Shi said, "We've made a fool of ourselves." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, looked up at the door, and said, "Come in." The door opened. A man and a woman walked into the pavilion. The woman was the brothel keeper. The man was a middle-aged man with a thin figure, wearing a white robe, with mottled white hair at his temples, with a vicissitude aura. This person walked into the tea room, looked at Qin Feiyang, and cupped his hands with a smile. "I'm the owner of the Fragrant Moon Pavilion. Greetings, young Master Qin." Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. The owner looked at the brothel keeper and Qin Yu and said, "You two go out first." "Yes." The three bowed and turned to leave the pavilion one after another, closing the door. The owner also withdrew his gaze and sat opposite Qin Feiyang, saying with a smile, "I didn't expect young Master Qin to be His Highness's guest." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed slightly, and he said with a faint smile, "It seems that the owner is also His Highness's man." The owner of the Fragrant Moon Pavilion was stunned and asked curiously, "How do you know?" "Only Zhuge Mingyang knows that I follow His Highness. Moreover, His Highness has always asked me to hide this matter." "May I ask how you know?" "Without a doubt. His Highness must have told you personally. Doesn't this prove that you are a person His Highness trusts very much?" Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Hearing these words, the owner looked at Qin Feiyang in a daze, shook his head and smiled. Just based on this, young Master Qin can think so much. Indeed, his mind is extraordinary. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, "I'm just a little clever. How dare I show off in front of an expert? In terms of brains, looking at the whole younger generation of the imperial capital, probably only Zhuge Mingyang can compete with you, so young Master Qin doesn't have to be modest." As for Qin Yu and Qin Shi, the first prince also said that you can take them away at any time. The owner smiled. "Thank you, owner. But I have one more thing to talk to you about." Qin Feiyang said. "What is there to talk about between us?" The owner was suspicious. Qin Feiyang said, "Of course there is. I heard that you have a 5th-grade pill fire in your hands." The owner was slightly stunned and nodded. "Many people know about this. What's the matter?" "To be honest, I came to the Fragrant Moon brothel this time for the 5th-grade pill fire." "Owner, you can name your price." Qin Feiyang didn't talk nonsense and directly revealed his real purpose. "I was wondering why young Master Qin would come to my Fragrant Moon brothel today. It turns out that you have ulterior motives," the owner said with a playful look in his eyes. Qin Feiyang leaned on the chair and put his hands on his legs. He looked calmly at the owner of the Fragrant Moon brothel and said, "There's no need to say these meaningless words. Since young Master Qin doesn't want to say meaningless words, then I won't beat around the bush. Although my attainments in alchemy are not as good as young Master Qin, I'm still an alchemist. So I won't sell this 5th-grade pill fire to you," the owner said. "Is that so?" Qin Feiyang smiled indifferently, took out a potential pill, and threw it on the tea table. The owner immediately looked at the potential pill, and his eyes shone brightly. "Is it enough?" Qin Feiyang asked. The owner didn't say anything, and his eyes flickered. Qin Feiyang took out another pill, threw it on the tea table, and asked, "Is this enough?" The owner still didn't say anything. Qin Feiyang smiled playfully, took out 3 potential pills, and said, "Is it enough?" When it's time to keep a low profile, he will keep a low profile. But when it's time to show off, he won't be careless at all. Since this person wasn't willing to sell, then he will use the potential pill. Anyway, he didn't lack potential pills now. He didn't believe that this person wouldn't be tempted. However, the owner was still silent. To be honest, he was indeed tempted. Because no matter how precious the 5th grade pill fire was, it couldn't be compared to the value of the potential pill. But looking at Qin Feiyang's indifferent face, he wanted to see where Qin Feiyang's limit was. To put it simply, he was greedy and wanted a few more. Is it still not enough? Qin Feiyang raised the corner of his mouth, took out 5 potential pills at once, and directly threw them on the table. A total of 10 potential pills. Although his behavior seemed frivolous, he was observing the owner's expression throughout the whole process. So, he had seen the Tower Master's interest in him. Seeing that the owner still didn't show any signs of speaking, Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. It seems that the owner really doesn't intend to sell the pill fire. Since that's the case, then I won't force you. Goodbye. After saying that, he grabbed the 10 potential pills on the table, got up, and strode away. This change caught the owner of the Fragrant Moon in a little off guard. Looking at this guy's attitude before, wasn't he determined to get it? Why did he suddenly give up? Young Master Qin, wait. After he came back to his senses, he hurriedly got up and said, "You're still too inexperienced to fight with me." Qin Feiyang secretly smiled disdainfully, turned to look at the owner suspiciously, and asked, "Is there anything else?" "I've thought about it carefully. The 5th grade pill fire is actually not that useful to me. And young Master Qin is the Crown Prince's guest, and you're so sincere. If I still refuse, wouldn't I be too heartless?" The owner smiled. "So?" Qin Feiyang asked. The owner said, "So, I plan to sell the pill fire to you. In that case, then I'll thank the owner first. Here are 5 potential pills, please kindly accept them." Qin Feiyang took out 5 potential pills, walked into the tea room, and handed them to the owner. The owner was stunned and frowned. "Why are there 5 pills? Shouldn't there be 10? Qin Feiyang shook his fingers and said, "No, no, no. There were 10 pills just now, but now there are only 5. The owner looked at the 5 potential pills and then looked at Qin Feiyang, not knowing what to do. "Although I don't lack potential pills, I'm very particular about principles. If you're really sincere, I'll naturally show my sincerity too." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "I'm not sincere." The owner frowned. "Do you really think I can't tell? Just now, you kept silent again and again. Wasn't it because you wanted me to take out more potential pills? As a person, we can't be like you. After all, we're all working for the Crown Prince. Don't you think so?" Qin Feiyang smiled and asked. "Yes, yes, yes." The owner nodded, but it was hard for him to accept losing 5 potential pills. "You're not selling? Then forget it. It just so happens that I'm short of money recently. I'll just auction it off at the main pavilion." Qin Feiyang grabbed the 5 potential pills and turned to leave. The owner rubbed his forehead and said, Okay, I'll sell it to you." He looked troubled. If he knew, he would have agreed from the start. He lost 5 potential pills for nothing. Sigh. It was all because of his greed. He sighed and took out an old metal box from his Qianquan bag. He handed it to Qin Feiyang and said helplessly, the pill fire is inside. Qin Feiyang opened the metal box and a palm-sized flame entered his sight. After the owner erased the blood contract, Qin Feiyang handed the 5 potential pills over. After the transaction was completed, Qin Feiyang did not stay any longer and turned to leave. This lad is really as sly as an old fox. Chapter 718. In the corridor outside the door. Qin Yu and Qin Shi stood side by side. Seeing Qin Feiyang come out, the 2 women immediately bowed. Don't be so polite. Qin Feiyang smiled and looked at the corridor on both sides. He didn't see the middle-aged woman, so he asked, "Where is the madam?" Qin Yu said, "Someone sent her a message and left." "Then let's go." Qin Feiyang nodded and walked downstairs with the 2 women. Seeing this, the others were all surprised. What's going on? Why did these 2 women go downstairs with Qin Feiyang? Lu Xingchen was also a little surprised. Soon, the 3 of them came to the lobby, and Qin Feiyang led them to Lu Xingchen. "Greetings, young Master Lu." To Qin Feiyang's surprise, the 2 women bowed as soon as they saw Lu Xingchen. Qin Feiyang asked in surprise, "Do you know each other?" Lu Xingchen smiled and said, "I saw them the first time I came to the Fragrant Moon House." "Do you think we know each other?" "I see." Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. "When I first came here and saw everyone bidding, I was as confused as you were at first. Later, after some inquiry, I learned that they were your maids. So, I paid a high price to buy them for 1 night." Lu Xingchen said again. "Buy them for 1 night?" Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. "Don't get me wrong. I didn't do anything that night. I just chatted with them." Lu Xingchen laughed secretly. Qin Feiyang said, "So, you also know why they are in the Fragrant Moon House?" "Yes. It's precisely because I know that I specially brought you to the Fragrant Moon House." Lu Xingchen said. "Thank you." Qin Feiyang thanked him sincerely in his heart. If it weren't for Lu Xingchen, who knew when he would have found out about Qin Yu's current situation? "There's no need to thank me. After all, I still owe you a lot of favors." Lu Xingchen smiled faintly. At this moment, a burly man in black walked into the Fragrant Moon brothel. He glanced around the lobby and his eyes locked onto Qin Feiyang. Next, the black-clothed man walked straight to Qin Feiyang and bowed. "Greetings, young Master Qin." Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked suspiciously, "You are?" "I am a guard of the Marquis of Qianwu. Our Marquis would like to invite young Master Qin to the Marquis mansion for a chat." The black-robed man transmitted his voice. "Qianwu Marquis?" Qin Feiyang furrowed his brows. "What is it?" Lu Xingchen asked. Qin Feiyang sent a sound transmission. "The Marquis of Qianwu wants to see me. He is Feng Yun's father." "Why does he want to see you?" Lu Xingchen was suspicious. "I don't know either." Qin Feiyang replied, looked at the black-clothed man, and asked, "Marquis, is there something you need from me?" The Marquis only said to invite young master to his residence as a guest. "I don't know anything else." The black-clothed man transmitted. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment, then asked, "When are we going?" "Now. The Marquis has already prepared a banquet and is waiting for young master," the black-clothed man said. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, he looked at the black-clothed man and said, "Go out and wait for me." "Yes." The black-clothed man bowed, then turned and walked out. Lu Xingchen thoughtfully looked at the back of the tall and sturdy man, and said softly, "Be careful, it's a Hongmen banquet. I also have to go to the Hongmen banquet. After all, the other party is a martial marquis, and he has already set up a banquet." Qin Feiyang said. "Then what about them?" You have to know that only the war sect is qualified to enter the temple. Lu Xingchen glanced at Qin Yu and Qin Yu as he asked. Qin Feiyang laughed, this is very easy to arrange, just let them go to the castle. But before his voice faded, Qin Yu said, young master, I have a presumptuous request. Qin Feiyang laughed, there's no harm in saying it. Qin Yu said, it's been more than 10 years, we have never returned home. We want to go home to visit our family, please help us. You haven't gone back for more than 10 years? Qin Feiyang frowned. The two women nodded. Lu Xingchen asked, it's the Lord of the Fragrant Moon Inn, she won't let you go back. The two women nodded again. Sigh, how pitiful. Lu Xingchen sighed. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with killing intent. Whether it was the first prince or the Lord of the Fragrant Moon Inn, they all deserved to be killed. But soon, the killing intent in his eyes was concealed, and he said with a smile, you can go back, and accompany your family. Thank you, young master. The two were overjoyed and bowed to thank him. Qin Feiyang smiled, waved his hand, and Fatso appeared. Seeing Fatso appear out of thin air without any warning, everyone in the hall was surprised. Including Qin Yu and Qin Yu. Qin Feiyang secretly said, escort the two of them back. No problem, but do you want to tell them your identity? Fatso asked secretly. They have just regained their freedom, and their hearts have not calmed down yet, so don't tell them for the time being. Qin Feiyang sent a sound transmission. In fact, what worried him the most was that the two women felt sorry for him and discredited him. If they knew that he was the 14th prince now, they would definitely feel even more guilty and ashamed to see him again. At that time, they might do something stupid. Understood. Fatso nodded. Protect them well, I don't want them to be hurt again. Qin Feiyang stood up, patted Fatso's shoulder, and turned to walk out of the Fragrant Moon Inn. The black-clothed man immediately opened a portal, and the two were about to walk in. Qin Feiyang, wait, let's talk. But at this moment, a calm voice suddenly sounded. Qin Feiyang looked in the direction of the voice, and saw a familiar figure on the opposite street through the moonlight. It was Zhuge Mingyang. The black-clothed man's pupils shrank, and he bowed, greetings, young Master Zhuge. Zhuge Mingyang nodded, looked at Qin Feiyang, and said, follow me. After that, he walked into a small alley behind him. Under the hazy moonlight, Zhuge Mingyang's expression could not be seen clearly. But there was a hint of gloominess in his calm voice. Qin Feiyang frowned and said to the black-clothed man, wait for me. Okay. The black-clothed man nodded, and after Qin Feiyang entered the alley, there was a hint of suspicion in his eyes. In the alley, the buildings on both sides blocked the moonlight, making the place extremely gloomy. Qin Feiyang and Zhuge Mingyang stood facing each other. Zhuge Mingyang said, Qin Feiyang, I really can't see through you. Can you tell me who you are? Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat, and he said with a smile, why do you say that, brother Zhuge? The first prince said that you are addicted to beauties because you have tasted the forbidden fruit, but I don't believe him. So just now, I sent a message to the brothel keeper of the Fragrant Moon Inn to ask her about the situation. Zhuge Mingyang said. Qin Feiyang suddenly said, so it was you who sent her a message. That's right. According to the brothel keeper, from the time Qin Yu and Qin Shi entered the Chani pavilion to the time you asked Qin Shi to call her, it was only a few hundred breaths of time. I don't understand. How can a person who is greedy for beauties find pleasure in such a short time? Brother Qin, please answer this question for me. Zhuge Mingyang said, his eyes becoming a little sharp. Qin Feiyang's pupils shrank. Zhuge Mingyang was really meticulous. At the same time, he was also quite angry. At that time, he was angry and anxious and neglected this point. Nothing to say? Then let me say it. You didn't have any physical contact with Qin Yu and Qin Shi. There must be other reasons for you to help them. Zhuge Mingyang said. Qin Feiyang said calmly, then I also want to ask Brother Zhuge a question. You are such a smart person, why do you want to work for the first prince? I have already answered this question. The princes are fighting openly and secretly. If I don't choose a side, I will be implicated sooner or later. Zhuge Mingyang said. Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile, you can only deceive others with this kind of nonsense. Zhuge Mingyang frowned and said, whether you believe it or not, this is the truth. Now it's time for you to answer my question. Okay. I admit, I only helped them because I saw that they were pitiful. Qin Feiyang said helplessly. He was not pretending, he was really helpless. Originally, he wanted to say that he had some relationship with Qin Yu and Qin Shi. But, how could a person who had just entered the imperial capital have a relationship with the maids of the imperial palace? So he really couldn't find any other reason. This makes me even more puzzled. The hostesses of the fragrant moon brothel are even more pitiful than them. Why didn't you help them? Zhuge Mingyang said. Yes. They are all very pitiful. After all, in this world, no woman is willing to put down her self-esteem to please those men. However, even if they were forced by life, they entered the fragrant moon brothel voluntarily. But Qin Yu and Qin Shi are different. They were forced by the first prince. He even used their families to threaten them. How can this be the same? Qin Feiyang said. Zhuge Mingyang shook his head and said, as you said, this kind of nonsense can only deceive others. Qin Feiyang said lightly, then I will also say the same thing to you. Whether you believe it or not, this is the truth. Swish. But before his voice faded, Zhuge Mingyang took a step forward and landed in front of Qin Feiyang. His whole body was filled with a bone-piercing cold current. Brother Zhuge, are you going to make a move? Qin Feiyang's eyes were still calm. Zhuge Mingyang said, if I were the first prince, would never believe you so easily. The point is, you are not the first prince. And I, Qin, am loyal to the first prince. Qin Feiyang said. Zhuge Mingyang took a deep look at Qin Feiyang, took a few steps back and said, I don't care what you want to do, but I advise you not to hurt the first prince. Otherwise, I will definitely not let you go. After that, Zhuge Mingyang waved his hand and opened a portal. Then let me tell you, if you become the enemy of I, Qin Feiyang, even if you were once the #1 monster in the imperial city, you will still die. Qin Feiyang said. Is that so? Zhuge Mingyang turned his head and looked at him meaningfully, then walked straight into the portal. Yes. Chapter 719. Inner City. A huge mansion was located in the South City district. Inside the mansion, layers upon layers of majestic halls stood tall. Gardens, pavilions, small bridges and flowing water were everywhere. And every intersection was guarded by guards, the security was extremely tight. Banquet Hall. A long dining table was placed in the center, it was more than 10 meters long. The dining table was carved from a type of red ancient wood, and the patterns on the edge of the table seemed to be naturally formed, vivid and lifelike. On the table, there were plates of delicious dishes arranged neatly, the aroma overflowing. And on the main seat, sat a middle-aged man. His body was well-built, his face rough, he wore a purple robe, and his serious face was imposing without anger. This person was the owner of this mansion, Marquis Qianwu. On both sides of the table, there was a group of maids standing respectfully, they were all 17 or 18 years old, and looked slender and elegant. Swish! Outside the door, two figures appeared out of thin air. It was Qin Feiyang and the black-clothed man. The black-clothed man bowed and said, I will go and report, young Master Qin, please wait for a moment. Qin Feiyang nodded, curiously looking at the surroundings. Although he knew Marquis Qianwu, it was his first time in Marquis Qianwu's mansion. At the same time, the black-clothed man turned and walked into the banquet hall. Looking at Marquis Qianwu, he said respectfully, "Marquis, Qin Feiyang has been invited, he is now outside the door." Marquis Qianwu, who had been keeping his head lowered, finally raised his head, 2 rays of light bursting out of his eyes. "Invite him in." His voice was filled with power, and it carried a great sense of majesty. "Yes." The black-clothed man replied respectfully, turned to look at the door, and said loudly, "Young Master Qin, Marquis invites you in." Duh. Accompanied by a series of footsteps, Qin Feiyang walked in with large strides. After more than 10 years, Marquis Qianwu's appearance had not changed much. But the aura he emitted was stronger than before. Qin Feiyang stood opposite Marquis Qianwu and cupped his hands. "Greetings, Marquis." "An." Marquis Qianwu nodded. He sized up Qin Feiyang and said, "Have I seen you somewhere before?" Qin Feiyang felt a chill in his heart. Could it be that he had been seen through? He asked calmly, "Marquis, why do you say that?" Marquis Qianwu said, "Your eyes give me a sense of déjà vu, as if I've seen them many years ago." Qin Feiyang's pupils contracted. The older the ginger, the spicier it was. After interacting with the first prince for so long, he had not noticed anything amiss. However, the moment they met, the Marquis of Qianwu managed to catch a glimpse of it. Qin Feiyang said, "Marquis is in a high position and has seen countless people. It's not strange that you have seen similar eyes, right?" "That's true." Marquis Qianwu nodded and did not think too deeply about this question. He extended his hand and said, "Please take a seat." Qin Feiyang secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He did not stand on ceremony and sat opposite Marquis Qianwu. Marquis Qianwu looked at the maid beside him and instructed, "Pour wine for young Master Qin." A maidservant immediately stepped forward with a wine pot. "Wait." Qin Feiyang extended his hand to cover the wine cup and said to the maidservant. He then looked at Marquis Qianwu and laughed, "I won't drink this wine. If Marquis has anything to say, just say it. Straightforward. This Marquis likes young people like you." Marquis Qianwu waved his hand and the maid retreated to the side. Following that, Marquis Qianwu stood up and cupped his hands. "First of all, this Marquis will apologize to Brother Qin on behalf of my son, Feng Yun." Apologize? Qin Feiyang was startled. According to what he knew, this Marquis Qianwu was extremely protective. Logically speaking, he should take the opportunity to make things difficult for him. What was this person planning? Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed as he laughed. "The dispute between me and your young master is purely a small matter. Marquis does not need to be so polite. Is it just a small matter?" Marquis Qianwu seemed to be asking himself, but also seemed to be asking Qin Feiyang. He then returned to his seat and said, "But it's just a small matter, and almost half of my house of Marquis' fortune has been lost." Qin Feiyang was surprised, "So much?" Actually, he was still somewhat dissatisfied in his heart. He had originally thought that Feng Yun would make Marquis Qianwu go bankrupt this time. After all, the people who bet at that time had basically bet all of their wealth. But he didn't expect that it was only half. From the looks of it, Marquis Qianwu's fortune was quite astonishing. Marquis Qianwu sized up Qin Feiyang and said indifferently, "After hearing my words, is Brother Qin a little disappointed?" Disappointed? Where did that come from? I, Qin, have never targeted senior brother Feng Yun and the Marquis. Qin Feiyang said somewhat innocently. Is that so? Marquis Qianwu asked, the expression in his eyes gradually changing. Of course. The grudge between senior brother Feng Yun and I is actually a misunderstanding. Furthermore, I, Qin, did not place a bet at that time. Qin Feiyang said. Indeed, you did not place a bet, but you instigated others to do so. If not for your instigation, would I have lost so much of my fortune? Marquis Qianwu said. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. He could tell that this was a trap. If Marquis invited me here for this matter, then please forgive me for being rude. Goodbye. Qin Feiyang stood up and was about to leave. Swish. But at this moment, the black-clothed man took a step forward and blocked the door, blocking Qin Feiyang's path. Qin Feiyang's gaze darkened. He turned to look at Marquis Qianwu and said, "What do you mean? Since Brother Qin doesn't like to beat around the bush, then this Marquis will speak frankly. You must repay all the wealth that I have lost this time. Otherwise, don't even think about walking out of this door." Marquis Qianwu leaned on his chair and said indifferently. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang was so angry that he laughed. Your fortune was lost by that idiot Feng Yun, and now you want me to compensate you. Don't you find it funny? Whether Feng Yun is stupid or not is his business, and whether you compensate or not is your business. It has nothing to do with each other. Marquis Qianwu said. Qin Feiyang sneered, first peaceful means, then force. Marquis is indeed worthy of being an overlord. Marquis Qianwu's gaze was cold as he said, Young man, think carefully before you speak, lest trouble comes from the mouth. Is that so? Qin Feiyang's mouth lifted as he laughed. Then I will kindly advise Marquis, don't think too highly of yourself, be careful of falling. He actually dared to speak to the Marquis like this? The maids and the black-clothed man all felt that it was inconceivable. Marquis Qianwu laughed loudly, and said, Little brother is indeed as the rumors say, your courage is outstanding, but in front of this Marquis, those who are bold will often die early. Qin Feiyang laughed faintly. Since he could not leave, he walked to the dining table and sat down on the chair. It seems that little brother is a tactful person. Marquis Qianwu laughed, thinking that Qin Feiyang had compromised. Qin Feiyang could not be bothered with him, and looked at the maid beside him, saying, Give me the wine. The maid was startled, and could not help but look at Marquis Qianwu. Give it to him. Marquis Qianwu said. Yes. The maid obediently brought over the wine jug. Qin Feiyang grabbed the wine jug and started to drink without caring about anything else. Gradually, Marquis Qianwu also lost his patience, and said, When do you plan to compensate? The wine of the Marquis's mansion is delicious. Qin Feiyang praised. He raised his head to look at Marquis Qianwu, and asked curiously, How many gold coins is Marquis going to ask me to compensate? Forget about the gold coins, I want your potential pill formula. Marquis Qianwu said, his eyes filled with greed. Marquis's appetite is not small. Qin Fei chuckled. A treasure like the potential pill should not fall into the hands of a small figure like you. Hand it over, this Marquis will treat you as an esteemed guest. But if you don't hand it over, today will definitely be the day you die. Marquis Qianwu said with a confident smile on his face. Qin Feiyang laughed out loud, and said, Sure, but I have a condition. Speak. Marquis Qianwu said. Qin Feiyang threw away the wine cup, directly grabbed the wine jug, and raised his head to drink. At this moment, it was as if a flame was burning in his heart. The blood in his body seemed to be boiling as well. Crack. Just like that, he finished the entire jug of wine. Then, he exerted force with his hand and the wine jug shattered. Following that, he raised his head and stared at Marquis Qianwu, revealing a mouthful of pure white teeth, and said, Kill your son with your own hands, and I will give you the potential pill formula. Pow! Hearing this, Marquis Qianwu suddenly stood up and slammed his palm onto the dining table. The dining table was instantly torn apart. The dishes on the table splattered all over the floor. Why are you so agitated? You must know that this is a potential pill. Compared to your useless son, it is much more valuable. Looking at the angry Marquis Qianwu, Qin Feiyang was not the slightest bit nervous. He sat on the chair as steadily as Mount Tai, and looked at Marquis Qianwu with a smile. Kid, you're courting death. Marquis Qianwu laughed sinisterly and shouted, take him down. Shua. The black-clothed man blocking the door immediately took a step forward and landed behind Qin Feiyang. His large hand shot out explosively, grabbing towards Qin Feiyang's shoulder. Do you dare? Qin Feiyang laughed in ridicule, and slowly took out the crown prince's token, holding it in his hand and playing with it. That is, when Marquis Qianwu saw the crown prince's token, his eyes were immediately filled with bewilderment, and he immediately shouted to the black-clothed man, wait. The black-clothed man's hand was already grabbing Qin Feiyang's shoulder, but when he heard Marquis Qianwu's shout, he immediately let go and looked suspiciously at Marquis Qianwu. Look at this. Qin Feiyang raised the crown prince's token and waved it in front of the black-clothed man's eyes without turning his head. This is the crown prince's token. The black-clothed man's expression changed. This Qin Feiyang was actually the first prince's guest of honor? Marquis Qianwu also froze there, not knowing what to do. The first prince had already been appointed as the crown prince. Compared to the other princes, he was the most likely person to succeed the throne. And this crown prince was willing to give the crown prince's token to this person, which meant that he valued this Qin Feiyang greatly. If he were to harm Qin Feiyang now, it would be equivalent to offending the first prince. Offending the crown prince was not a small matter. Even he, Marquis Qianwu, could not withstand the anger of a crown prince. Therefore, he was now in a difficult position. Chapter 720. Hearing Qin Feiyang's question, Marquis Qianwu's face became gloomy. Finally, he gritted his teeth and sneered, do you think that just because you are an honored guest of the first prince, you have the qualifications to be arrogant in front of me? It seems that the person who has been arrogant all this time is you, right? Qin Feiyang laughed faintly. Marquis Qianwu laughed, but his eyes were filled with killing intent. What is it? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows, and said, you still plan to make a move? Yes. As long as you do it cleanly, even if the first prince finds out about your death, he won't know who killed you. Kill him. Marquis Qianwu sneered, and gave the order to the black-clothed man without hesitation. However, the black-clothed man looked at Marquis Qianwu with a troubled expression. Marquis Qianwu said angrily, do it, didn't you hear me? The black-clothed man stammered, as if he had something that was hard to say. Qin Feiyang kept the crown prince's order, and said indifferently, don't force him, he won't dare to make a move. Marquis Qianwu was startled, his face filled with confusion. Because before I came, Zhuge Mingyang came to find me, and this guard of yours, Zhuge Mingyang should not be unfamiliar with it, right? Qin Feiyang laughed. What? Marquis Qianwu's face changed, and said to the black-clothed man, really? Yes. The black-clothed man nodded, lowered his head and said, I even greeted him. Marquis Qianwu said angrily, so you're saying, Zhuge Mingyang knows that Qin Feiyang is here? The black-clothed man nodded again. Damn it, how did you do your job? Marquis Qianwu was furious. Marquis, you didn't tell me that you were going to deal with Qin Feiyang. The black-clothed man felt wronged. You still dare to quibble? Marquis Qianwu roared, he was about to go crazy. Zhuge Mingyang knew that Qin Feiyang had come here, so if something were to happen to Qin Feiyang, the first person to suspect would definitely be him, the Marquis of Qianwu. Marquis, remember to be more cautious the next time you do something like this. Qin Feiyang stood up and looked at the Marquis of Qianwu in ridicule before turning around and walking towards the door. At the same time, he could not help but sigh in his heart. He didn't expect that Zhuge Mingyang's suspicion would save his life. Sometimes, fate played tricks on people. If Zhuge Mingyang did not suspect him and did not come to the Fragrant Moon brothel to look for him, then he would have been in deep trouble today. But just as Qin Feiyang reached the door. Ah! Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream rang out. Qin Feiyang was shocked. He hurriedly turned his head to look, and his expression changed on the spot. A huge bloody hole had appeared on the back of the black-robed man. Blood was gushing out. What's going on? Qin Feiyang was bewildered. He looked at the Marquis of Qianwu, only to see that the Marquis of Qianwu had raised his arm. His fingertips were still filled with battle qi. It was obvious that the black-robed man was killed by the Marquis of Qianwu. But why did the Marquis of Qianwu do this? The surrounding maids also turned pale as they looked at the Marquis of Qianwu, their bodies trembling. But before Qin Feiyang could figure out the situation, the Marquis of Qianwu actually tried to kill the maids again. Streaks of battle qi tore through the sky and shot into the maids' foreheads like sharp arrows. In the blink of an eye, other than Qin Feiyang, everyone in the banquet hall had lost their lives. However, before it was over, the Marquis of Qianwu rushed out of the banquet hall and killed all the guards around him. Then, he returned to the banquet hall and closed the door. What are you doing? Are you crazy? Qin Feiyang looked at the Marquis of Qianwu in shock and anger, a strong sense of unease rising in his heart. I am crazy. As the Marquis of Qianwu walked towards Qin Feiyang, he laughed sinisterly. His face was distorted and looked extremely sinister. At the same time, his entire body was filled with hostility, like a wild beast that had gone mad. Qin Feiyang's face darkened. Suddenly, his gaze trembled as he pointed at the black-robed man and said, "You want to frame him? You're really smart." "That's right. When this Marquis kills you and the first prince investigates, this Marquis will say that it was this guard who killed you while this Marquis wasn't around. And right now, there's only you and me. As long as you die, there will be no evidence. How is it? You didn't expect this Marquis to be so smart. Little bastard, don't think that just because you have the Crown Prince token, you can eat this Marquis. You're still too inexperienced." The Marquis of Qianwu laughed sinisterly. "You really deserve to die." Qin Feiyang clenched his fists. In order to achieve his goal, he actually used such despicable methods. He was simply shameless to the extreme. Go to hell, little bastard. When you die, everything on you, including the potential pill formula, will be this Marquis'. Marquis Qianwu laughed out loud, his speed suddenly increased, and instantly landed in front of Qin Feiyang. Then, his big hand was like an eagle's claw, grabbing towards Qin Feiyang's head. That murderous intent made Qin Feiyang's scalp go numb. Swish! Without hesitation, he used the phantom steps and retreated backwards. However, how powerful was the strength of a Marquis? How could he compare to it? There was no way to escape. His head was about to be grabbed, and once it was grabbed, it would definitely explode on the spot. However, right at the moment of imminent peril, Qin Feiyang suddenly felt the descent of a mysterious power. Following closely, his vision blurred and he appeared in a secret room. At the same time, he also sensed a familiar aura. He turned around and immediately saw a white-robed youth beside him. Who else could it be but Lu Xingchen? "Why are you here?" Qin Feiyang was somewhat stunned. "I was a little worried, so I snuck in here. In the end, I was right to come, and I returned you a favor." Lu Xingchen laughed, waved his hand, and an image appeared in the air in front of him. "This Marquis knows that you have a spatial treasure that can hide in it. This Marquis also knows that this spatial treasure of yours is unable to be moved. If you don't want to be trapped inside, then get the hell out of here. In the image, Marquis Qianwu stood in the banquet hall, looking around in shock and anger. He was going crazy. Qin Feiyang looked at the screen, then turned to look at Lu Xingchen and laughed. "Thank you." Lu Xingchen waved his hand, and said, "How do you plan to take revenge on him?" Qin Feiyang shook his head. "Martial Marquis are all experts that surpass War Master, I can't afford to offend them right now." Lu Xingchen said, "Then we have to let him pay some interest first, right?" "That's a must. Since he likes his idiot son so much, then I'll make an example out of him." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with a cold light. "Interesting." Lu Xingchen chuckled, and immediately controlled the spatial divine object to leave the banquet hall. The spatial divine object that was exposed to the outside world was like a speck of dust, so as long as there was a gap, it could fly out. After leaving the banquet hall, Qin Feiyang appeared in a garden. At this moment, it was almost late at night, and the entire garden was quiet. Qin Feiyang did not hide, because there was no need. Marquis Qianwu thought that he was still in the banquet hall, so the people outside had no idea what was going on. Just like that, he openly walked along a narrow path in the garden. 10 breaths later, he walked to a fork in the road. Here, there was a guard. "Who is it?" Hearing the footsteps, the guard immediately became vigilant. Qin Feiyang walked out from the darkness, cupped his hands and smiled. "I am Qin Feiyang, greetings brother." The guard was startled, and asked suspiciously, "Weren't you in the banquet hall?" Qin Feiyang laughed faintly. "I accompanied the Marquis to drink a few cups and resolve the conflict, but after all, the age difference is too great, and I really can't find any common topics, so I wanted to come out and take a look at the Marquis's mansion." "So that's how it is." The guard muttered and laughed. "Then young Master Qin, take your time to tour." "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded and walked forward. Suddenly, he turned around and asked, "Is senior brother Feng Yun home?" The guard said, "Yes, during this period of time, he has been grounded by the Marquis." Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. "So it's like that, then tell me where he lives, I'll go and have a chat with him later." "The young master is in the backyard. If you go down this road, you will soon see a pond. The young master lives next to the pond. But the young master is facing the wall to reflect, don't stay too long." The guard didn't doubt him and told him the truth. Because in his opinion, if the conflict hadn't been resolved, the Marquis wouldn't let Qin Feiyang out. In other words, Qin Feiyang could come out of the banquet hall, he must have gotten the Marquis's permission. "Thank you." Qin Feiyang smiled. Then, as he walked, he looked all around him. After leaving the guard's sight, he suddenly disappeared without a trace. Inside the spatial divine item, Qin Feiyang looked at Lu Xingchen and said with a smile, "Did you hear that?" Lu Xingchen nodded with a smile, and then rode the spatial divine item, breaking through the air. Sure enough, it didn't take long for them to see a pond. Beside the pond, there was an exquisite pavilion, with big red lanterns hanging around. Qin Feiyang glanced at the pavilion, and his eyes were directly fixed on a window on the second floor. The window was half open, and wisps of candlelight came through. And in front of the pavilion, there were 2 guards guarding. Whoosh! The spatial divine item silently swept through the window, and Feng Yun immediately appeared in the picture. But Feng Yun was kneeling on the ground at the moment. Lu Xingchen asked with a smile, "Do you need me to go out and help?" "No need." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, took out the Chang Shui, and nodded to Lu Xingchen. Swish! Lu Xingchen waved his hand, and Qin Feiyang instantly disappeared. At the same time, behind Feng Yun, Qin Feiyang appeared out of thin air and said with a smile, "Feng Yun, is it comfortable to kneel here?" This voice, Feng Yun's eyes trembled, and he hurriedly turned his head. But the moment he turned around, Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the Chang Shui cut through the void like a bolt of lightning. Immediately. Feng Yun covered his neck and let out a painful scream. Fresh blood spurted out from his hands like arrows. What's going on? Go and take a look. At the same time, 2 exclamations came from outside. Immediately after, there was the sound of the door being slammed. It was obvious that the 2 guards who were guarding outside the door had rushed in after hearing the screams. It's too late to find out now. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly, grabbed Feng Yun, and entered Lu Xingqian's spatial divine item. Lu Xingqian looked at Feng Yun, who was already dead, and asked puzzledly, "Why did you bring him in?" Qin Feiyang said, "Of course it's to send him to his father." Lu Xingqian was stunned, shook his head and said with a wry smile, "You really know how to torture people." After saying that, he drove the spatial divine item out of the window and shot toward the banquet hall. As for the 2 guards, as soon as they broke into Feng Yun's room and saw the blood flowing on the ground, their faces changed color. One of them shouted, "Quickly inform the Marquis, the young master has been killed." After this person finished speaking, he immediately jumped out of the window and stood in the sky, glancing down gloomily. Chapter 721. When Marquis Qianwu received the message, his first thought was disbelief. Because the Marquis's mansion was heavily guarded, it was impossible for someone to break in without anyone knowing and harm his son. But that guard was his trusted aide, so it was impossible for him to lie. "Who is it?" He looked at the shadow of the guard and said angrily. The guard knelt on one knee and said, "This subordinate is incompetent and did not see this person's face. I did not even know that someone had entered young master's room. Weren't you guarding outside? How could you not know? Are you neglecting your duties?" Marquis Qianwu said angrily. "This subordinate does not dare. The 2 of us have been guarding outside the door and have never left. We are sure that we did not see anyone enter." The guard said anxiously. If anything happened to Feng Yun, he would definitely not have a good ending. "Damn it!" Marquis Qianwu stomped on the ground, his face looking extremely ferocious. He did not think about Qin Feiyang. Because he thought that Qin Feiyang was in the banquet hall. "Qin Feiyang, come out quickly, this Marquis does not have time to waste with you." He looked at the position where Qin Feiyang disappeared and said gloomily. However, no one answered him. "Little bastard, aren't you very arrogant? Come out if you have the guts." He could not help but roar. Bang! But before he finished speaking, a bloody corpse fell in front of him out of thin air. He was slightly taken aback, looked down, and immediately bared his teeth. Wasn't the corpse lying in front of him his son, Feng Yun? "Who? Get out here for this Marquis." He scanned his surroundings, his eyes filled with killing intent. Swish! Suddenly, a white figure materialized. It was Qin Feiyang. The moment he appeared, he cupped his hands and said with a smile, "Marquis, I am deeply sorry for my previous offense, so I specially sent you a big gift." "Big gift?" Marquis Qianwu was stunned. Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile, "Can't you see? Your son is my big gift to you." "What? You killed Feng Yun?" Marquis Qianwu was surprised. "Yeah. You've been so good to me, so of course I have to repay you. How is it? Are you satisfied?" Qin Feiyang grinned. "Impossible. Isn't your spatial treasure immobile?" Marquis Qianwu had a look of disbelief. "The information you obtained might not be true. My respected Marquis, remember this lesson. Don't provoke me again." Qin Feiyang sneered and instantly disappeared without a trace. "Come out, I'm going to kill you, this Marquis is going to eat you alive and tear you to shreds." Seeing Qin Feiyang disappear again, Marquis Qianwu was so angry that he roared again and again, even the roof of the house was overturned. But all of this had nothing to do with Qin Feiyang. In the air above the Marquis estate, the spatial divine object was as fast as lightning. Brother Qin, assassinating the son of a marquis is not a small matter. How do you plan to deal with the aftermath? Lu Xingchen asked. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment, and was about to speak, but at this time, the image crystal in his arms suddenly made a sound. Taking it out, it turned out to be Fatso's message. However, when Fatso's image appeared, Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat. Because at this moment, Fatso's face was filled with grief and self-blame. Moreover, he did not speak for a long time. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang asked. Boss, I'm sorry. Fatso lowered his head and said. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang suddenly had an ominous premonition. Fatso was silent for a moment, then gave Qin Feiyang a coordinate, and said, "Come over and we'll talk." With that, Fatso turned off the image crystal. Lu Xingchen said in surprise, Fatso rarely has such an expression, could it be that something happened to Qin Yu and Qin Shi? Get out! Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. Lu Xingchen waved his hand, and with Qin Feiyang, appeared in the sky above a certain place of the Marquis' mansion. Then, Qin Feiyang opened the portal and rushed in without looking back. Lu Xingchen thought for a moment, and also rushed into the portal. The next moment, the two of them landed in an abandoned house. Fatso was in front. And on the ground in front of Fatso, there were two people lying on the ground. Qin Feiyang hurriedly walked up. If these two were not Qin Yu and Qin Shi, who else could it be? But at this moment, there was a dagger in the hearts of the two women. Blood was gurgling. They were already dead. Qin Feiyang grabbed Fatso's clothes on his chest and said angrily, "Tell me, what's going on?" Fatso's face was full of self-blame. Lu Xingchen looked at Qin Yu and Qin Shi and comforted, "Brother Qin, calm down, listen to Fatso slowly." Qin Feiyang let go of his hand and shouted in a low voice, "Speak." Fatso said, "Take a look at this house first." Qin Feiyang glanced around. In this place, the ground was riddled with holes and piled with dead branches and rotten leaves. The surrounding houses were also dilapidated, with spider webs everywhere. It was obvious that they had been abandoned for a long time. "This is," Qin Feiyang frowned. Fatso said, "This is Qin Yu's home." What? Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. Although he had a good relationship with Qin Yu, he had never been to Qin Yu's home. He only heard Qin Yu say that it was in the 10th city district. Lu Xingchen asked, "Why is it so abandoned?" Fatso pointed to a well next to him and said, "Go there and take a look." Qin Feiyang and Qin Shi walked over and looked down. When they saw the scene at the bottom of the well, even with their temperament, they couldn't help but feel their scalps tingle. The well had dried up, but at the bottom of the well, there were piles of bones. Fatso walked to the two and said, "The owners of these bones are Qin Yu's family." Qin Yu's family. Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled as he said in a deep voice, "Who did this? Take a look at this." Fatso took out a token from his arms. The token was completely black, and there was a thin layer of rust on its surface. But the rust couldn't hide the pattern on the token. On the front of the token, a giant python was engraved. On the back, a word was also engraved. This word was one. Looking at the word one, Qin Feiyang held the token tightly, and a piercing cold light burst out from his eyes. Lu Xingchen asked, "What does this one represent?" Qin Feiyang said word by word, "This one represents the first prince." Lu Xingchen's pupils shrank. The identity token of the guards of the first prince has a number. For example, the number of the first prince's guards is 1. The second prince's bodyguard. The number on his identity token is 2. Qin Feiyang said again. Lu Xingchen said, So, Qin Yu's family were all killed by the first prince's guards? It must be the first prince's order. Qin Feiyang's eyes were gloomy as he looked at Fatso and asked, "Where was this token found?" "Right here." Fatso pointed to the withered leaves under his feet. "At that time, when I was standing here and looking at the bones in the well, I felt as if I had stepped on something. When I pushed aside the withered leaves, I found this token. I think it should be the first prince's guards. When they were dealing with these corpses, they accidentally left it behind. And when we came here, there was a big stone blocking the well." At that time, Qin Yu also recognized at a glance that this was the identity token of the first prince's guards. "So it immediately occurred to me that these people were all killed by the first prince's order," Fatso said. Qin Feiyang looked at the ground next to him. Sure enough, there was a big black stone. And the traces of weathering were very serious. Qin Feiyang asked, "Then what about Qin Shi's family?" Fatso said, "Qin Shi's family is all dead. The situation is almost the same as here." Qin Feiyang said, "So, they chose to commit suicide?" "Yes. At that time, they might have guessed that I would stop them from committing suicide. So, they sent me away and asked me to go to this well to help take out these bones, saying that they wanted to find a place to bury them. But as soon as I went down, I heard their painful cries. By the time I came up, there was already a dagger in their hearts. Boss, I'm really sorry. It was my carelessness that led to their deaths." Fatso lowered his head, his face full of guilt. Qin Feiyang turned his head to look at Qin Yu and Qin Yu. He sighed and said, "They insisted on dying. Even if you had stopped them at that time, they would have continued to look for opportunities to commit suicide. You can't be blamed for this. There's one more thing. Before they died, I told them who you were. Both of them were very happy to hear that you were back. They also said that they were sorry and asked you to forgive them." Fatso said. "The one who should say sorry is me." Qin Feiyang walked to Qin Yu and Fatso and muttered to himself, his eyes couldn't help but become misty. Sigh. The two of them stayed in Fragrant Moon Brothel and endured the humiliation because they wanted to protect their families from the first prince. But, by the time they returned, they discovered that their families had already been killed by the first prince. Even we might not be able to bear such a blow, let alone two weak girls. Truly lamentable and hateful. Lu Xingqian deeply sighed, his face full of sympathy for the two. All of this started because of me. If not for me, they wouldn't have had to endure the humiliation of 10-odd years in Fragrant Moon Brothel. If not for me, their families wouldn't have been killed. Since all of this started because of me, then it's time for me to end it." Qin Feiyang muttered. But as he finished speaking, his hands suddenly clenched, his eyes bursting with intense killing intent. Lu Xingqian's eyes trembled, and he hurriedly said, "Brother Qin, you can't let your emotions affect your decisions." Fatso also advised, "Yes, boss, the first prince does deserve to die, but now is not the time. Even if the people around me die, I still have to endure, then, am I still worthy of being a man?" Qin Feiyang paused between each word, his eyes flashing with a shocking light. This, Fatso and Lu Xingqian looked at each other. "I'll return to the shrine first. You bury them properly, then come back to the shrine to find me." Qin Feiyang said to Fatso, then opened a teleportation gate and strode in with the rusty black token. Lu Xingqian frowned and sighed, "It seems that we can't persuade him. It's useless to persuade boss when he has decided on something. Just wait, the sky of the imperial capital is about to change." Fatso smiled coldly, carried Qin Yu and Lu Xingqian into the well, and placed them on the bones. "Don't worry. Soon, boss will avenge you and your families." Chapter 722. In Alchemy Room 701. Inside the ancient castle. Qin Feiyang put away the black token, took out a set of medicinal herbs, and began to refine pills. Lu Hong, Wolf King, the pangolin, and the black dragon snake stood behind him, their eyes full of worry. They really wanted to persuade Qin Feiyang. But they didn't know how to persuade him. For a moment, there was dead silence in the ancient castle. Dozens of breaths passed. A stream of light suddenly swept out from the Jiao dragon cauldron. Qin Feiyang stretched out his big hand and grabbed it in his hand. When he turned around and saw the expressions of Lu Hong and the others, he said in amusement, "What are you doing?" Lu Hong asked, "Are you really going to deal with the eldest prince?" Qin Feiyang didn't deny it. This, Lu Hong's beautiful brows knit together, and she hesitated to speak. "Forget it, don't persuade him. At worst, we'll just run away. Little Qin Zi, I support you." Wolf King stood on the ground and patted his chest. "Yes. I've long disliked him. This time, I must kill him." The pangolin said, his eyes flashing. "It doesn't matter. Anyway, since I've boarded your pirate ship, I can only accompany you to the end." The black dragon snake said lightly. Lu Hong looked at them angrily and finally sighed. "Well, I can't help you anyway. I'll just watch you make trouble." "Thank you." Qin Feiyang looked at everyone gratefully and left the ancient castle with Wolf King. Just then, Fatso and Lu Xingchen returned. Fatso said, "They're all buried." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded, turned to Lu Xingchen, and said with a smile, "Brother Lu, help me take care of Ren Wushuang after I leave." Lu Xingchen said, "Why do those sound like your last words?" Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. With a wave of his hand, he opened the stone door of the alchemy room and strode out with Fatso and Wolf King. Lu Xingchen's eyes flashed as he watched the backs of the two people and one beast gradually disappear into the distance. Then, he disappeared without a trace. A moment later, Qin Feiyang stood in front of alchemy room number 1 on the first floor. Fatso asked suspiciously, "Boss, what are you trying to do?" "Do what?" "Of course it's to snatch the alchemy fire." Qin Feiyang smiled coldly and knocked on the stone door. "Snatch the alchemy fire?" Fatso and Wolf King looked at each other and immediately became excited. They had been eyeing the pill hall's pill fire for a long time. If it wasn't for Qin Feiyang's orders, they would have already taken action. Very soon, the stone door opened silently. A white-clothed young man entered the line of sight of the two people and one beast. "Qin Feiyang?" When the white-clothed young man saw Qin Feiyang, his eyes revealed a trace of surprise. He cupped his hands and smiled, "Brother Qin, we are honored by your presence. Please forgive us for not welcoming you from afar." At the same time, there was also a trace of hostility. Because this person was Feng Yun's lackey. Therefore, he also didn't like Qin Feiyang, but he didn't dare to offend him. Qin Feiyang sized up the white-clothed young man and transmitted his voice to Wolf King, "Can you see through his cultivation? 3-star battle ancestor." Wolf King secretly said, "Do you have the confidence to kill him in one strike?" Qin Feiyang asked. "Isn't this a piece of cake?" Wolf King smiled disdainfully and instantly activated Berserk Rage. His cultivation suddenly increased. Before the white-clothed young man could react, he smashed him into meat paste with a claw. He didn't even have time to scream before he died. Blood splattered all over the ground. "Amazing." Qin Feiyang gave him a thumbs up and strode into the alchemy room. This alchemy room was twice as big as alchemy room number 701. It had a separate cultivation room and alchemy room. Fatso turned around and closed the stone door. The two people and one wolf walked straight into the alchemy room and knocked on the walls. They were looking for the secret door. According to the layout of the sacred hall and the inner hall, the alchemy fire should be in this alchemy room number 1. But in the end, they didn't find the secret door. What's going on? Wolf King was a little puzzled. Could it be that the alchemy fire wasn't here? Qin Feiyang frowned and said, "Let's go to the cultivation room again." Fatso and Wolf King immediately ran to the cultivation room and searched. Qin Feiyang looked around suspiciously and walked to the front of an iron frame. On the iron shelf, there were dozens of large and small jade bottles. There were all kinds of elixirs inside. Qin Feiyang grabbed the iron shelf and shook it. He pulled hard and moved the iron shelf away. Then he knocked on the wall behind the iron shelf. The sound that came out was full and solid. It meant that there was no secret room behind the wall. Where on earth is it hidden? Qin Feiyang frowned and turned to walk out of the alchemy room. But at this moment, because he moved the iron shelf away with too much force, several jade bottles shook and finally fell to the ground. With a crack, they broke into pieces. But Qin Feiyang suddenly turned around and looked at the ground. Just now. The moment the jade bottles fell to the ground, he obviously felt that the sound was different. Could it be underground? With this doubt, Qin Feiyang walked over and stomped with all his strength. Dong! There was an echo from the ground. It's really down here. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up and said, "Found it. Come here quickly." Fatso and Wolf King immediately ran in excitedly and asked at the same time, "Where is it?" "Down here." Qin Feiyang pointed at the ground and said. Fatso squatted on the ground and punched hard. When he heard the echo, his squinted eyes lit up. Don't be happy too early. The secret door in the spiritual state's sanctum and inner sanctum requires the blood of the Pill Hall Master to open. And the entrance here must also require the blood of the Pill Hall Master of the Godly Palace. Wolf King said. Is this a problem for us? Don't forget that the boss has a godly weapon. Fatso laughed. Godly weapon? Wolf King was slightly stunned, and then his eyes lit up. At the same time, Qin Feiyang also took out the Chang Shui. Let me do it. Fatso grabbed the Chang Shui and slashed at the ground with all his might. Crack! The Chang Shui sank into the ground easily like cutting tofu. TSK, TSK, TSK. Awesome! Wolf King was speechless. The ground was very thick, but the Chang Shui was indestructible. In less than 10 breaths, a fist-sized hole appeared. Buzz! A wave of fire instantly rushed out from the hole. It's indeed alchemy fire. Seeing this, Fatso seemed to have been injected with chicken blood. He was full of energy as he slashed the ground crazily. In a few blinks of an eye, the hole on the ground was as big as an adult's palm. It was obviously impossible for Qin Feiyang and Fatso to enter this hole. However, Wolf King, who had the ability to transform, could come and go as he pleased. Whoosh! Wolf King immediately turned into a stream of light and plunged into the hole. In less than half a blink of an eye, he plunged out again. On his claws, there was a cluster of burning flames. You guys go to the ancient castle first. Qin Feiyang moved his mind and sent Fatso and Wolf King to the ancient castle. Then, he immediately opened a portal and walked in without turning his head back. At the same time, somewhere in the depths of the divine palace, there was an ancient-looking courtyard. A woman in white was sitting in the pavilion of the courtyard. She was reading an ancient book with her head lowered. But suddenly, her gaze trembled. She stood up and opened a portal. Then, she instantly appeared in the sky above the Pill Palace. Greetings, Palace Master. The white-haired old man who was guarding the Pill Palace immediately ran out and bowed when he sensed her aura. However, the woman in white didn't even look at him. She directly entered the Pill Palace and plunged into the alchemy room number 1. The white-haired old man followed her in bewilderment. When she arrived in front of the alchemy room number 1, the woman in white didn't say anything and directly smashed the stone door with her palm. The white-haired young man who was smashed into meat paste instantly appeared in front of her. Her face immediately turned gloomy. Then, the woman in white ran into the alchemy room again. Looking at the hole on the ground, a terrifying pressure suddenly rushed out from her body. What happened? The white-haired old man ran into the alchemy room. When he saw the white-haired young man's corpse, he was also bewildered. When he entered the alchemy room, he was dumbfounded. The alchemy fire was stolen? The woman in white suddenly turned around and looked at the white-haired old man. She shouted, "Tell me, who did this? Your Highness, please spare my life. I don't know either." The white-haired old man trembled. He kneeled on the ground and said in fear, "As the guardian of the Pill Palace, you don't even know that the alchemy fire was stolen. What else can you do?" The woman in white was furious. The white-haired old man felt wrong too. It was true that he was the guardian of the Pill Palace. However, he couldn't keep an eye on the alchemy fire every day, right? However, the woman in white was in a fit of anger. No matter how wronged he felt, he could only hold it in. The woman in white looked at the hole on the ground again. Such a small entrance. It was impossible for a human to go in. It must be a beast. She turned around and looked at the white-haired old man. She said, "Go and check immediately. See who among the disciples of the Pill Palace has a beast with them." Okay. The white-haired old man nodded. He quickly got up and ran out. Useless trash. Looking at the white-haired old man's back, the woman in white cursed. Then, she squatted on the ground and touched the knife mark on the edge of the hole. Her eyebrows were tightly knitted together. Obviously, the ground was split open by a sharp weapon. However, every brick and tile in the Pill Palace was made with a very hard stone. Ordinary weapons couldn't even leave a mark on it. Now, someone actually broke such a big hole. This was too unbelievable, right? What kind of weapon did this? What's going on? Why did the alchemy fire in my alchemy room suddenly disappear? My alchemy fire here also disappeared. At the same time, the stone doors of the alchemy room on the first floor opened one after another. One by one, the disciples walked out of the alchemy room with a face full of surprise. In an instant, the first floor of the Pill Palace was in an uproar. As the culprit, Qin Feiyang was standing in front of a tall and majestic palace. This was the eldest prince's palace. In other words, he was in the imperial palace. After living in the imperial palace for 10 years, he knew the coordinates of the eldest prince's residence. The palace in front of him was still the same as it was 10 years ago. There weren't many changes. On both sides of the palace door, there were 10 guards in black armor standing straight. They were the invincible Black Army. "You are Qin Feiyang?" The 10 of them looked at Qin Feiyang with a trace of surprise in their eyes. "That's me." Qin Feiyang nodded. "What are you doing here? How did you know the coordinates of this place?" Chapter 723. Without further ado, Qin Feiyang took out the Crown Prince token. Seeing the Crown Prince token, the eyes of the 10 guards immediately changed, with a trace of respect. "Can I go in now?" Qin Feiyang asked. "Yes. Young Master Qin, please come in." The 10 guards quickly retreated to the sides, making way for him. Qin Feiyang put away the Crown Prince token and strode into the palace. The layout of the palace was slightly different from before, but it was still as luxurious as ever. The floor was inlaid with pale golden jade. There were all kinds of jades and agates on the walls. The furniture was also made of high-quality gold-rimmed nanmu, full of nobility. But seeing all this, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but clench his fists. All these years, in order to survive, he had risked his life outside. But the first prince lived like a prince in the imperial palace. Why? It wasn't because he was jealous, but because he felt it was unfair. They were both princes, but why was there such a big difference in treatment? Phew! Letting out a long breath, Qin Feiyang went straight to the second floor. If he remembered correctly, the first prince lived on the second floor. On the second floor, Qin Feiyang saw the first prince sitting cross-legged on a bed, meditating with his eyes closed. On both sides stood 2 guards. They wore black armor and their cultivation levels were unfathomable. Who is it? Sensing the appearance of an unfamiliar aura, the 2 guards immediately shouted coldly. You are, but when they saw Qin Feiyang, a trace of surprise crept into their eyes. At the same time, the first prince opened his eyes and saw Qin Feiyang standing outside, his brows furrowed. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said, Greetings, Your Highness. The first prince said, Come in. Qin Feiyang walked in with large strides. Brother Qin, didn't I tell you not to come to the imperial palace? If you come in, won't the guards outside know that you have the crown prince token? The first prince frowned. Qin Feiyang said, They are your bodyguards. They won't leak it out, will they? It's true that they're my guards, but they've all been bribed by other princes. In other words, they are spies placed here by the other princes. I reckon that it won't be long before the news of you possessing the crown prince medallion spreads throughout the imperial capital. The first prince was furious. So that's how it is. It seems I was too reckless. I ask for your highness forgiveness. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said. Actually, he knew all of this. There were spies in the residences of all the princes. This was the unspoken rule of the imperial palace, and it was unavoidable. The first prince rubbed his forehead and sighed. You are my honored guest. What can I do to you? Speak, what's the matter? Is it convenient to talk? Qin Feiyang looked at the 2 guards beside the first prince. The first prince smiled and said, Don't worry, they are all my trusted aides. Trusted aides? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and said telepathically, Your Highness, I think it's better not to let them know about this. With these 2 guards around, he had no chance to make a move, so he had to send them away. So mysterious? The first prince's eyes flashed. He waved to the 2 guards and said, You 2 go out first. Yes. The 2 guards respectfully responded. They looked suspiciously at Qin Feiyang, turned around, and went out to guard the door. The first prince got up, walked to the tea table next to him, and sat down, saying, Sit down and talk. Qin Feiyang glanced at the 2 guards and his eyes flashed with a bright light. Then, he walked forward, sat next to the first prince, and directly took out the rusty black medallion. When the first prince saw the medallion, a trace of doubt crept into his eyes. Your Highness, do you recognize this? Qin Feiyang handed it over with both hands. The first prince took it and looked at it over and over. He said, Isn't this the identity medallion of my guards? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, Then Your Highness, do you know where I found this? Where? The first prince was puzzled. Qin Feiyang said, Next to a well in Qin Yu's house. The first prince's pupils shrank. He looked up at Qin Feiyang and frowned. Brother Qin, are you here to condemn me? Condemn me? Qin Feiyang shook his head with a smile and said, Your Highness is the high and mighty crown prince. How would I dare to question Your Highness? I just don't understand why Your Highness wants to kill Qin Yu and Qin Shi's family. The first prince's eyes darkened. This is not something you should care about. If there is nothing else, please leave immediately. Don't be in such a hurry. Let me finish. If I'm not wrong, your highness killed their families because of the former 14th prince. Qin Feiyang said. Pa. Hearing this, the first prince slammed his palm on the tea table, his face full of anger. The two guards guarding outside immediately rushed in and looked at Qin Feiyang with unfriendly faces. The first prince raised his eyebrows and said angrily, "Who let you in? Get out." The two of them shrunk their necks and turned to leave. The first prince suppressed his anger and looked at Qin Feiyang. "Brother Qin, what do you want to say?" "What I want to say is that your highness didn't even let off the 14th prince's maids and their families. Does your highness hate him that much?" Qin Feiyang frowned. For a moment, the first prince fell silent. After a long time, a ruthless look appeared in his eyes. "I do hate him, and I hate him very much." "I'm listening," Qin Feiyang said. "Back then, before he was born, Imperial Father doted on me very much. Whatever I want, Imperial Father will give it to me. Moreover, Imperial Father had always intended to make me the heir apparent. However, after my 14th brother was born, he displayed unparalleled talent. Father's concern for me gradually shifted to him. Imperial Father even intended to make him the heir apparent, so I hated him. Seeing him become more and more favored with each passing day, the hatred in my heart grew stronger and stronger with each passing day. I remember that when he was 10 years old, I sparred with him. If not for someone stopping me, I would have already killed him. But there's a good saying, the sky is full of unforeseen events. Although I didn't kill him during that sparring, the next day, Imperial Father gave the order to cripple his cultivation and expel him from the Imperial Palace. At the time, Imperial Father wanted to send the guards to kill him, but he was lucky enough to have an empress as his mother. That stinking woman begged for mercy on his behalf, allowing him to keep his dog life. The first prince laughed, not bothering to hide his gloating. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly. How dare she humiliate his mother? Unforgivable. He calmly asked, "Then, the empress didn't go to the 14th prince after that?" Imperial Father gave the order to forbid her from going to my 14th brother. Did she dare to go? Moreover, her position as empress has long been abolished, and she is now under house arrest in the imperial harem. She has no chance to leave. The first prince sneered. What? The empress has been abolished? Why haven't I heard of it? Qin Feiyang abruptly stood up, disbelief written all over his face. The first prince said in surprise, "This matter isn't a secret. You can ask around and find out. Why haven't you heard of it?" "Is that so?" Qin Feiyang mumbled. When he first entered the imperial capital, he had asked Fatso to ask around. Apart from the first prince being made the heir apparent, did anything else happen in the imperial capital? Later, Fatso also said that nothing else had happened. Could it be that Fatso didn't tell him the truth? Or could it be that Fatso really didn't find out? Seeing Qin Feiyang's big reaction, the first prince frowned and asked in confusion, "Brother Qin, why do you seem so concerned about my 14th brother?" "Of course I am." Qin Feiyang smiled. "What do you mean?" The first prince was stunned. "I mean," Qin Feiyang's eyes suddenly turned cold. He stood up and grabbed the first prince's neck. At the same time, with his other hand, he took out a pill and stuffed it into the first prince's mouth. Then, Qin Feiyang let go and took a few steps back. The first prince panted and said in shock and anger, "What did you feed me?" At the same time, hearing the commotion, the two guards rushed in and looked at the first prince in shock. "What did you eat?" "You will know very soon." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. The first prince shouted, "Catch him for me." The two guards immediately rushed towards Qin Feiyang. But at this moment, the first prince fell to the ground with a bang. He hugged his head and screamed in pain. The faces of the two guards who were rushing towards Qin Feiyang changed. They immediately turned around and asked with concern, "Your Highness, how are you? It hurts." The first prince howled miserably, his face distorted. And at the same time, his cultivation crazily plummeted. In the blink of an eye, he fell from a one-star war master to a one-star war emperor. What's going on? Looking at this scene, the two guards panicked. Qin Feiyang crossed his arms over his chest and laughed, "Your Highness, how does the miasma pill taste?" That's right. This miasma pill was the pill that Qin Feiyang had refined before he snatched the pill fire. He wanted the first prince to taste the pain and despair that he had once tasted. What? The first prince's face suddenly turned pale. The faces of the two guards also changed. How could they not know about the miasma pill? Back then, the 14th prince was crippled by the miasma pill. Why did you do this to me? Why? The first prince stared at Qin Feiyang and roared. His anger made him lose his sense of pain. Why? Qin Feiyang chuckled and said, "I also want to know why the emperor treated the 14th prince like that back then. Who are you? What is your relationship with my 14th brother?" The first prince was surprised. Me? I have a good relationship with the 14th prince. He saved my life in the spiritual state, so I want to repay him. Qin Feiyang smiled. The first prince's gaze trembled as he said in surprise, "So, he's not dead yet?" The two guards were also bewildered. Qin Feiyang was silent for a while and sighed, "He's already dead." The 14th prince was indeed dead, and the only one left was the current Qin Feiyang. Hearing this answer, both the first prince and the two guards couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. The 14th prince's talent was shocking. If he wasn't dead, the imperial capital would be in chaos. Chapter 724. Although he's dead, I'm still here. I'll help him fulfill his last wishes. Qin Feiyang said again. You? Huh, the eldest prince laughed, his eyes full of contempt. If you continue to endure, you might be able to live even longer. But now, you can't escape. Take him down. I want him alive. I want him to experience a life worse than death. Suddenly, he shouted coldly, and the two guards immediately rushed toward Qin Feiyang. Can you do it? Qin Feiyang smiled disdainfully and bowed. Welcome, Empress. Empress? The two guards were shocked and hurriedly looked at the door. But there was no one at the door. At the same time, Qin Feiyang took a step forward and landed in front of the first prince. His large hand shot out and grabbed the first prince's neck. Then, he twisted the first prince's neck as if he was twisting a little chick. Damn it! We've been tricked. The two guards were furious and hurriedly looked at the eldest prince. When they saw that the eldest prince had fallen into Qin Feiyang's hands, they immediately became anxious. Let go of His Highness. The two guards shouted angrily. If you dare to take a step forward, I'll crush his throat. Qin Feiyang grinned, revealing his white teeth. How dare you? The two guards shouted. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Try me if you don't believe me. The two guards didn't dare to move. This person dared to give the eldest prince a spiritual disaster pill. What else did he not dare to do? What do you want? The eldest prince was also afraid. At this time, his cultivation had been completely destroyed, and he was powerless. However, if his cultivation was destroyed, he could cultivate again. If he lost his life, everything would be gone. Qin Feiyang asked, Answer me, who is the current empress? The eldest prince said, It's my mother. You and your son are really powerful. One took away the 14th prince's position as crown prince, and the other took away his mother's position as empress. You mother and son, why are you so shameless? Qin Feiyang said disdainfully. The positions of crown prince and empress were conferred by imperial father. What does it have to do with us? If you want to settle the score, you should look for him. The first prince said furiously. Yes, we do need to ask him about it. Qin Feiyang muttered to himself and shouted, Tell me, where is the 14th prince's mother under house arrest? The first prince replied, Bright Heaven Palace. Bright Sky Palace. Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. This name was too familiar. It was the place where he used to live. Furthermore, the Bright Heavenly Palace was a birthday gift from the emperor back then. But now, he was using it to put his mother under house arrest. This was too much. Whoosh! Qin Feiyang waved his hand and opened up a teleportation gate. He grabbed the first prince and walked in with large strides. Where did he go? The two guards looked at the dissipating teleportation gate in bewilderment. He asked about the 14th prince's mother's residence just now. I think he should have gone to Bright Heavenly Palace. Hurry and inform the commander. I'll go to Bright Heavenly Palace to keep an eye on him. After one of the guards finished speaking, he immediately opened a teleportation door. The other guard also hurriedly ran out. What? The first prince was kidnapped by Qin Feiyang? And his cultivation was crippled? This person is too bold. He actually dared to come to the imperial palace to commit murder? Soon. The news spread in the imperial palace. Whether it was the palace maids, eunuchs, or guards below, or the princes, princesses, and concubines above, they were all so shocked that they could not speak. This was the first time someone had come to the imperial palace to commit murder since the establishment of the Great Qin Empire. For a moment, countless people rushed to Bright Heavenly Palace. Many people in the imperial palace had only heard of Qin Feiyang's name, so they all wanted to see if this person had 3 heads and 6 arms to be so audacious. Bright Heavenly Palace. This place covered an area of half a mile. Apart from a palace, the rest of the place was filled with gardens. There was a sea of flowers everywhere, their fragrance assailing the nostrils. There was also a small stream, winding around in the garden. The stream water was so clear that one could see the bottom. Colorful little fishes leaped out of the water from time to time, splashing up waves after waves. And somewhere in the stream, there was a pavilion. The pavilion was richly ornamented and had an antique feel. There was a small bridge in front of the pavilion's entrance. The stream water flowed slowly under the small bridge. A light breeze blew, giving people a cool feeling. Swoosh! Suddenly, the void distorted, and 2 figures appeared on the small bridge out of thin air. It was Qin Feiyang and the first prince. Looking around, the first prince asked in surprise, How do you know the coordinates of this place? The 14th prince told me. Qin Feiyang said indifferently. Then, he looked at the pavilion, a bone-piercing cold light bursting out of his eyes. This was the place where his cultivation was crippled back then. He had also come here previously in the illusion of the Bridge of Helplessness. Nothing had changed. I'm back. He muttered secretly, turned around, and scanned the entire White Heaven Palace. Gradually, he found that after more than 10 years, the grass, trees, bricks, and tiles had not changed at all. The only difference was that around White Heaven Palace, there were guards standing straight. These guards were not from the invincible Black Army. They were all wearing flame armor, and there was a pattern engraved on the chest of the armor. It was a fire qilin. Moreover, they held halberds in their hands, and the aura they exuded was much stronger than the invincible Black Army. Qin Feiyang was no stranger to these guards. They were another large army under the emperor's command. The Kirin Army. Everyone in the Kirin Army was stronger than the invincible Black Army in terms of overall strength. Their status was naturally higher than the invincible Black Army. Therefore, as long as there was not a particularly serious incident, the Kirin army would not be dispatched. But at this moment, they were guarding around White Heaven Palace. There was no doubt that they were guarding his mother. He actually sent the Kirin army to guard her. His father was really daring. Qin Feiyang could not help but clench his fists. In fact, he only wanted to cripple the crown prince when he entered the imperial palace. But when he heard that his mother had been stripped of her position as empress and was under house arrest, he could no longer control the emotions in his heart. He could be injured. He could be abandoned. But his mother could not be. Whoosh! At this moment, in the sky above the palace, a black figure appeared. It was the guard who had rushed over. Who is it? As soon as the guard appeared, it alarmed the surrounding Kirin army. That imperial guard hurriedly said, "Everyone, I am the imperial guard of the crown prince. Qin Feiyang kidnapped the crown prince and might be hiding somewhere in the White Heaven Palace. I will have to trouble everyone to help me find him." What? The crown prince was kidnapped by Qin Feiyang? The Kirin army heard this and suddenly changed their expressions. Whoosh! Almost at the same time, everyone rushed to the sky and scanned the garden below. Qin Feiyang stood on the small bridge and looked up at those people. He said lightly, "No need to look, I'm here. How dare you hurt the crown prince?" The Kirin army shouted angrily and broke through the sky like lightning, directly attacking Qin Feiyang. Seeing this, the guard hurriedly said, "Don't do it. This Qin Feiyang is crazy. He can do anything." One of the Kirin army sneered, "I don't believe he dares to kill the crown prince." "He dares. Because just now, he gave the crown prince a spiritual disaster pill." The guard hurriedly said, "Spiritual disaster pill." The Kirin army people all changed their expressions. They did not dare to go forward anymore. They surrounded Qin Feiyang and trapped him in the middle. Whoosh! After a while. Then, more figures appeared in the sky. They were all members of the invincible Black Army. The leader was wearing a set of golden armor. His eyes were sharp, and his aura was even stronger than that of the Kirin army. This person was the Grand Commander of the invincible Black Army. The Grand Commander looked down at Qin Feiyang and said, "Do you know what you are doing now is enough to kill you 100 times? Do you know that if I use a little bit of force, this crown prince of the great Qin Empire will die on the spot?" Qin Feiyang looked at the Grand Commander and said lightly. The Grand Commander frowned and said, "Why would he do that?" The guard said, "Grand Commander, he wants to avenge the 14th prince." The 14th prince. Hearing this name, everyone's expression changed. "Speak clearly." The Grand Commander shouted. He just said that the 14th prince had saved his life in the spiritual state, so he wanted to fulfill the 14th prince's last wishes one by one. The guard said. The Grand Commander was shocked. He didn't expect this rising young man to have such a relationship with the 14th prince. He looked at the guard and said, "So, the 14th prince is dead?" He said he is dead. The guard nodded. The Grand Commander looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Is he really dead? Do you want him dead?" Qin Feiyang asked. "I just feel sorry." The Grand Commander shook his head. Qin Feiyang said, "Stop pretending. I want to see the 14th prince's mother." "Okay, I will go and invite her for you. But don't do anything to hurt the crown prince," the Grand Commander said in a threatening tone and then turned around and rushed toward the palace. At the same time, in the sky far away, a group of young people gathered. There were men and women. The young ones were only 7 or 8 years old, and the older ones were in their 20s or 30s. They were the princes and princesses of the imperial palace. They all wore gorgeous robes and had an otherworldly aura. The second prince was also among them. But at this moment, these people were looking at Qin Feiyang in disbelief. Furthermore, the matter of Qin Feiyang barging into the imperial palace and injuring the first prince had also been deliberately spread by some people. The first people to receive the news were the marquises in the inner city. What? Is he rebelling? The marquises were in disbelief. Especially Marquis Qianwu. In his opinion, Qin Feiyang killing his son in his mansion was already audacious. But he never thought that he would go to the imperial palace and hurt the crown prince. His guts were too big. Immediately after, the people from the 1st district to the 10th district also received the news. It was too shocking. Was this Qin Feiyang going to defy the heavens? For a time, all the restaurants were crazily spreading the news. Without a doubt. Chapter 725. At the same time. Temple. Is he crazy? He actually went to the imperial palace to hurt the eldest prince? Ren Wuxia and Shen Mei looked at each other with shock in their hearts. In front of the two, Ling Yu and the other three stood side by side with a worried look. Obviously, they were the ones who told this news to Ren Wuxia and Shen Mei. According to the news, Qin Feiyang is an old acquaintance of the 14th prince. He went to the imperial palace this time to avenge the 14th prince. Feng Ranran said. The 14th prince? Ren Wuxia and Shen Mei looked at each other, their eyes full of suspicion. Who was this person? At first, we didn't know who the 14th prince was. But after some inquiries, we found out that the 14th prince was the #1 demon in the imperial capital. But more than 10 years ago, the emperor suddenly gave an order to abolish this person's cultivation and expel him from the imperial palace. And according to the news outside, Qin Feiyang personally admitted that the 14th prince had saved him in Lingzhou, so in order to repay the 14th prince's life-saving grace, he broke into the imperial palace. Zhao Yu said. I didn't know about this. Ren Wuxia murmured. As an elder sister, wasn't she a little too incompetent? Ling Yu sighed. He must have deliberately hidden it from you, not wanting you to get involved. Then tell me, what should I do now? Ren Wuxia looked at them anxiously. Calm down. You know Brother Qin's character better than we do. He won't do things that he isn't confident in. So now, what you have to do is not to care about anything. Ling Yu said. Yes. If you interfere, not only will you not help Brother Qin, but you will also drag him down. Luo Dan followed. At the critical moment, I can't do anything. Why am I so useless? Ren Wuxia whispered, his face full of pain. Wuxia, don't be like this. Because for this kind of thing, not only you, but we can't help. Shen Mei comforted. Yes. No one can help him. The only one who can help him is himself. Ling Yu and the other three also sighed deeply, the worry on their faces difficult to dissipate. Bright Sky Palace. Facing the encirclement of the invincible Black Army and the Kirin Army, Qin Feiyang's expression didn't change. Because at this time, it was useless to be afraid. You could only face it bravely. A moment passed. Whoosh! 4 figures rushed out from the palace and rushed towards Qin Li's direction. One of them was the commander of the invincible Black Army. The other 3 were 2 burly men and a beautiful woman with a pale face. Both of them were middle-aged men. Their bodies were tall and sturdy, and they wore long black robes. The aura he exuded was as deep and unfathomable as the ocean. However, their faces were haggard and their eyes were lifeless. They looked like walking corpses that had lost all hope. Looking at the 2 of them, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but feel pain in his heart. These 2 men were his mother's bodyguards, Qin Yi and Qin Zhong. In his heart, Qin Yi and Qin Zhong had always been fierce, decisive, and full of fighting spirit. But at this moment, these things couldn't be found on their faces. There was a lot of white hair on their temples. One could imagine how tired they had been in the past 10 years. Turning his gaze, Qin Feiyang looked at the beautiful woman again. Immediately, her eyes were filled with tears. This face, this figure, Qin Feiyang was too familiar with. He would never forget it. It was his mother that he had missed for a long time. But it was different from before. His mother had taken off her phoenix coronet and phoenix robe. Her previous elegance and nobility no longer existed. Now, she was wearing a very old white dress, but it was very clean and neat. There was no trace of makeup on her face. She looked elegant and refined. The passage of time did not leave the slightest trace on her youthful face. But Qin Feiyang noticed that his mother's originally clear and bright eyes were now cloudy and dim. Qin Feiyang's heart hurt as if it was cut by a knife. Because he could imagine what kind of life his mother had been living in the past 10 years when he left the imperial capital. She must be in a lot of pain and guilt for not protecting her son back then. "Greetings, Your Highness." As soon as the beautiful woman arrived, both the invincible Dark Army and the Kirin Army lowered their heads and bowed. Even the princes and princesses in the distance. Although she was no longer the empress, her majesty was still there. No one dared to blaspheme. The beautiful woman glanced at everyone and her eyes fell on Qin Feiyang. Her heart suddenly jumped inexplicably. She looked up and down at Qin Feiyang. A different kind of throbbing gradually occupied her whole body and mind. A moment later, a smile that hadn't appeared on her face for a long time appeared. "I heard that you were looking for me," the beautiful woman said. Her gentle voice entered Qin Feiyang's ears, and the tears in his eyes almost flowed out. He held back the tears in his heart and nodded to the beautiful woman. "Why are you looking for me?" the beautiful woman asked. Qin Feiyang squeezed a smile on his face and said, "I'm here to see you on behalf of your son." Haotian, the beautiful woman lowered her head. 2 drops of tears fell down. These were tears of sadness and self-reproach. At the same time, Qin Zhong and Qin Yi also clenched their hands. Their eyes were filled with grief and indignation. The mist blurred their vision. The beautiful woman asked, "Is he okay?" "He is dead." In front of others, he could say this without hesitation. But in front of his mother, he hesitated. His heart was extremely painful. Because he knew that his mother would be sadder and more upset when she heard this. Sure enough. When the beautiful woman heard this, tears gushed out like a spring. "Master, don't be sad, okay? If His Highness knew that you were so sad for him, he wouldn't be able to rest in peace." Qin Yi and Qin Zhong comforted her. Although they said so, in their hearts, they were more upset than the beautiful woman. Looking at this scene, Qin Feiyang's heart surged with an irrepressible impulse. He wanted to immediately rush up and reveal his identity to his mother. But reason told him that he couldn't do this. If he did this, not only would he hurt himself, but also his mother. He began to regret. He shouldn't have impulsively come to see his mother. Because now, he didn't have the strength to fight against the emperor. At the same time, the beautiful woman turned her head and quietly wiped her tears. She looked at Qin Zhong and Qin Yi with a forced smile and said, "I'm fine." The two couldn't help but sigh. How could she be fine after hearing the news of her son's death? The beautiful woman looked at the commander of the invincible Black Army and said, "I want to talk to him alone." This, the commander frowned and said, "Lady, the crown prince is in his hands." "I'm afraid that's not possible." The beautiful woman lowered her head and said, "I beg you." "Beg him." Hearing this, Qin Feiyang's body and mind trembled. The anger in his heart erupted like a volcano. He's just a commander. What qualifications does he have for you to beg him? Qin Feiyang's eyes turned red. He looked at the commander and roared, "Get lost immediately, or I'll kill the crown prince." The Grand Commander was enraged, but when he saw the dying first prince, he compromised. "Retreat." With a wave of his hand, the invincible Black Army and Kirin army around Qin Feiyang retreated. But they didn't retreat too far. They surrounded Bright Sky Palace, their auras firmly locked onto Qin Feiyang. There was no doubt. As long as Qin Feiyang showed a trace of weakness, these people would immediately launch a thunderous attack. Whoosh! The beautiful woman took a step forward and landed in front of Qin Feiyang in the blink of an eye. Qin Yi and Qin Zhong followed on her left and right. At this moment, looking at his mother so close, Qin Feiyang couldn't wait to dive into his mother's arms and cry. But he held back. The beautiful woman asked, "What did Tian say to you?" "I told you everything. He also said that he missed you very much and asked me to come and see you for him when I came to the capital. And his greatest wish is to take you away from the capital, away from this place he hates, and live a peaceful life for the rest of his life," Qin Feiyang said in a hoarse voice. The beautiful woman smiled in relief and said, "It's been hard on you." "It's not hard at all." Qin Feiyang shook his head. As long as he could see his mother, it was worth it. But he didn't say this sentence out loud. He just silently said it in his heart. "It's Tian's blessing to have a friend like you. Come, let me take a good look at you." The beautiful woman pulled Qin Feiyang toward the pavilion. Feeling the warmth from his mother's hand and smelling the familiar scent from her body, Qin Feiyang's heart almost melted. In the pavilion, Qin Feiyang and the beautiful woman sat opposite each other. Qin Feiyang had been holding the first prince in his hands all along. Qin Zhong and Qin Yi were also doing their duty and guarding the beautiful woman. The beautiful woman looked at Qin Feiyang for a moment, revealing a faint doting look and asked, "How old are you now?" "I've been so busy these years that I even forgot my own birthday. But I remember that the 14th prince once said that he and I were born on the same day. Isn't that a coincidence?" Chapter 726. It's a coincidence. But this also proves that your meeting is destined. And Tian, if he's still alive now, should be 24 years old. The beautiful woman laughed. Qin Feiyang's nose turned sour as he smiled. "I didn't expect Auntie's memory to be so good. But at this time." Qin Zhong sighed, "Isn't Lord's memory good?" "Then why?" Qin Feiyang asked. "Ever since His Highness left, Lord would celebrate His Highness' birthday every year. Even though His Highness isn't present at every birthday celebration, and only Her Highness is present, she has never forgotten." Qin Yi sighed. Hearing these words, Qin Feiyang suppressed the tears in his eyes and finally couldn't help but burst out. The beautiful woman frowned and said, "Qin Yi, don't say it." "Why not? Lord, Qin Zhong and I have been by your side every day. Who knows you better than us? For more than 10 years, you have been missing His Highness every day and night. You have been blaming yourself every moment for not protecting His Highness back then. How much you wanted to see him. How much you wanted His Highness to return to your side one day. Even so, in order to wait for His Highness to return and not feel unfamiliar with White Sky Palace, you did everything possible to keep every blade of grass, every tree, every brick and every tile in White Sky Palace the same as when His Highness left. We've all seen what you've done. But in the end, what you waited for was the news of His Highness' death. How could you not be sad? Lord, in this world, not only you, every mother yearns to live with their child forever. So, you don't have to hold it in at all. It will only be more uncomfortable." Qin Yi and Qin Zhong were filled with grief and indignation. The more they spoke, the more agitated they became. Hearing the words of Qin Zhong and Qin Zhong, Qin Feiyang glanced at everything in White Sky Palace and felt heartache. At first, he was still puzzled. After more than 10 years, everything here had not changed at all. It was only now that he understood that it was all taken care of by his mother in order to wait for him to come back. On the surface, this seemed like a simple matter. But in fact, it was very difficult. Because people could change, but plants and trees grew or withered every day. Changing them was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. But his mother did it. This was the love a mother had for her child. This love was selfless. He was giving silently without asking for anything in return. Suddenly, he made a decision. With a plop, he knelt in front of the beautiful woman with tears streaming down his face. Mother, however, just as he opened his mouth and was about to reveal his identity, the beautiful woman stretched out her hand and covered his mouth. She smiled and said, "Don't say anything. Carry Tian's will and live well." Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. He understood. Actually, his mother had long recognized his identity. She had merely hidden her love for him in her heart. It made sense when he thought about it. After 10 months of pregnancy, the hearts of mother and child were connected. He could hide it from others, but how could he hide it from the mother who gave birth to him and raised him? Moreover, Uncle Yuan was sent by his mother to protect him. Uncle Yuan had been missing for so long, perhaps he had already told his mother his current name. But he didn't understand. Why did his mother not say anything even though she recognized him? Did she have some concerns? At this time, the beautiful woman got up and helped Qin Feiyang up. She smiled and said, "Go, do what you want to do. Don't have any concerns." Qin Feiyang wanted to say that he didn't want to go. He wanted to stay with her. However, his throat seemed to be stuck by something and he couldn't say it. "Before I leave, I'll give you a word of advice. This is also something I often say to Tian. This world is very big. You can't just look at one place." The beautiful woman said. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded heavily. The beautiful woman waved her hand and smiled. "Then go. Auntie, goodbye." Qin Feiyang bowed and resolutely turned around to open a portal. Boom! At this time, a vast emperor's might descended from the sky. The transportation gate beside Qin Feiyang shattered with a "kacha" sound. Qin Feiyang also immediately looked up. A piercing cold light burst out from his eyes. He saw a middle-aged man standing high up in the sky. This man, wearing a dragon crown and a dragon robe, exuded a vast aura. That 7 feet tall body was like an unscalable mountain peak. An invisible pressure came crashing down, making it hard for people to breathe. "Greetings, Your Majesty." "Greetings, Father." In an instant, everyone present knelt on the ground with a respectful look. However, the emperor ignored them and fixed his eyes on Qin Feiyang. At the same time, the beautiful woman's face changed. She protected Qin Feiyang behind her and shouted, "Go." Looking at his mother's thin back, Qin Feiyang's heart ached. He gently pushed his mother away and smiled. "Auntie, I once promised the 14th prince that I won't let you get hurt again." The beautiful woman was a little angry. However, when she saw the smile on Qin Feiyang's face, she couldn't help but laugh. Whoosh! Qin Feiyang took a step forward, holding the first prince, and flew up 90,000 miles and landed in front of the emperor. This scene caused many jaws to drop to the ground. One had to know. The emperor was the supreme ruler. No one could be on equal footing with him. Qin Feiyang's current behavior was undoubtedly challenging the emperor's dignity. The moment their eyes met, invisible sparks seemed to collide in the void. The atmosphere suddenly froze. Qin Feiyang raised the corner of his mouth and said, "I didn't bow to you." Are you unhappy? The emperor said coldly, put him down. Who? Is it him? Qin Feiyang picked up the first prince and waved him in front of the emperor. The emperor said, put him down and I'll leave your corpse intact. You still want to kill me? Qin Feiyang was stunned for a moment. Then, with a loud boom, a towering rage suddenly erupted. I didn't intend to kill him, but since you said so, I might as well kill him. Qin Feiyang grinned and his 5 fingers suddenly tightened. The first prince screamed in pain. Of course, his neck was broken, and blood splattered in the sky. The people below were dumbfounded. Including Qin Feiyang's mother and Qin Zhong. Not only did he challenge the emperor's dignity, but he also killed the current crown prince in front of the emperor. Was this person borrowing courage from the heavens? Little brat, give me back my son's life. Suddenly, a furious roar was heard. A noble-looking woman with a phoenix crown on her head and a phoenix cloud draped over her body flew into the sky and rushed towards Qin Feiyang as if she had gone mad. Qin Feiyang looked down, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. This woman was the first prince's mother. Qin Feiyang was no stranger to her. This woman's strength was not much, not even half of his mother's, but her heart was extremely vicious. When he was young, the first prince dealt with him mostly because of her. Back down. The emperor raised his eyebrows and said expressionlessly. The woman said angrily, Your Majesty, back down. The emperor shouted again. The woman shrunk her neck. She knew that the emperor was angry, so she stopped. However, her eyes were filled with resentment. Swoosh! At this moment, another 2 figures appeared. These 2 people were the pill hall's hall master and Zhuge Mingyang. As soon as he saw the first prince's corpse, Zhuge Mingyang's expression changed, and a hint of ruthlessness appeared in his eyes. Your Majesty. The 2 of them bowed to the emperor. The emperor nodded his head. Next. Zhuge Mingyang looked at Qin Feiyang and said, I said, if you dare to hurt His Highness, I won't let you go. Qin Feiyang said indifferently, I'm not in the mood to care about you now. Go away. Zhuge Mingyang turned around and looked at the emperor. He bowed and said, Your Majesty, I want to fight with Qin Feiyang. Is it interesting for a 9-star battle sect to challenge me, a 2-star battle sect? Qin Feiyang sneered. Zhuge Mingyang looked at Qin Feiyang coldly and said, Your Majesty, please allow it. The emperor remained silent. The pill hall's hall master also asked, Qin Feiyang, did you steal the pill hall's first floor's alchemy fire? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded his head. Why? First, you stole the alchemy fire. Then, you came to the imperial palace to cause trouble. What do you want to do? The pill hall's hall master said angrily. What do I want to do? Qin Feiyang murmured. He suddenly looked at the emperor and shouted, I want to ask, why did you treat the 14th prince like that? What did he do wrong? The emperor said, I'm the emperor. I don't need to explain anything to anyone. Yeah, you're the emperor. But you can't even save your own son. Don't you think it's funny? Qin Feiyang sneered. He threw the first prince's corpse to the emperor. The emperor looked at the first prince's corpse. He was still expressionless. His hands were behind his back. He didn't have any intention to catch it. In the end, Zhuge Mingyang went forward and caught the first prince's corpse. After Zhuge Mingyang handed the first prince's corpse to the first prince's mother, he looked at the emperor again. He knelt in the air and said, Your Majesty, Qin Feiyang killed the crown prince. He deserves to be executed. Your Majesty, please grant my wish. Qin Feiyang said suspiciously, I'm confused. You used to be the #1 genius in the imperial capital. How did you become so loyal? Shut up. Zhuge Mingyang shouted. Qin Feiyang said, seems like you're suitable to be a loyal dog. You, Zhuge Mingyang was furious. Qin Feiyang said calmly, I'm not interested in you. Don't look for trouble. My beloved emperor, why don't we have a fair duel? What? He dares to challenge the emperor? Seems like we've seriously underestimated this guy's guts. The people below were boiling. Chapter 727. Zhuge Mingyang also looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. Challenging the emperor? Who gave him the courage? He really did not expect Qin Feiyang to be so crazy. At the same time, the emperor stood against the wind and locked his gaze on Qin Feiyang. There was still no expression on his face. No one knew what he was thinking. Suddenly, a monstrous aura rushed out from the emperor's body. It was like a peerless storm that swept across the sky. Heaven and earth were trembling. Swoosh! In an instant, everyone began to retreat, including Zhuge Mingyang and the pill hall master. However, Qin Feiyang's mother, Qin Zhong and Qin Yi did not move. They stood on the small bridge in front of the pavilion and looked at Qin Feiyang and the emperor with different expressions. There was a trace of relief on the beautiful woman's face, mixed with a trace of worry. Qin Zhong and Qin Yi were shocked. A mere two-star combat grandmaster actually dared to challenge the emperor of a country. He was the first person in history to have such courage. High up in the sky, Qin Feiyang stood opposite the emperor. Facing the emperor's terrifying aura, he was not nervous at all. Bang! His aura also exploded. Although it was many times weaker than the emperor's aura, the boldness that he displayed was not inferior to the emperor's. If you can withstand my aura for 10 breaths and not fall, I will fulfill your wish and have a fair fight with you. The emperor said. Before he could finish his words, a terrifying aura suddenly pounced on Qin Feiyang. The moment Qin Feiyang was enveloped by the aura, he let out a groan and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. At the same time, the void around him seemed to be frozen, making him unable to move an inch. Even his blood, heartbeat, and breathing were all sealed. So powerful. At this moment, Qin Feiyang deeply understood the power of the emperor. If the emperor wanted to kill him, he would be crushed into pieces with just a move of his finger. However, he would not admit defeat. Especially in front of the emperor, his pride did not allow him to retreat. The pressure was like a mountain, crazily oppressing his body. All the bones in his body were already making cracking sounds. However, Qin Feiyang didn't even frown. Amazing! In the entire Grand Qin Empire, there's no one who can withstand the might of an emperor. Even for us, we can only last for 2 to 3 breaths. This kid has already endured for 5 breaths. This is the first time I've encountered someone with such a tenacious heart. Qin Zhong and Qin Yi said with disbelief in their eyes. Yeah. Tian, although this friend is still very weak now, but in the future, he will definitely become the overlord of this world, and no one will be able to compete with him. The beautiful woman smiled. Qin Yi was stunned. He looked at the beautiful woman suspiciously and asked, "My lord, what's wrong with you today?" What? The beautiful woman didn't understand. Ever since His Highness left, you have never smiled in these 10 years. That's right. Logically speaking, you should be sad after hearing the news of His Highness' death. Why do you seem to be happy instead? Qin Zhong and the other man were puzzled. Although Tian, couldn't come back, this child came back to see me in Tian's place. Of course I'm happy. The beautiful woman said. Is that so? The two of them looked at each other, feeling that this reason was too far-fetched. The beautiful woman didn't speak again. She raised her head and looked at Qin Feiyang silently. 7 breaths. 8 breaths. In normal times, a mere 10 breaths was just a matter of a few blinks of an eye. However, at this moment, Qin Feiyang felt that time was passing very slowly, as if it had been several centuries. All the bones in his body had been broken. Blood was gushing out of his pores. At this moment, he was like a man of blood. If it were anyone else, they would have fallen long ago. However, he relied on his unyielding will and still stood tenaciously in the void. Even his body didn't sway at all. That thin figure was like a majestic giant mountain at this moment, shocking everyone's heart. Everyone was puzzled. What made this person persist until now? 9 breaths. 10 breaths. 10 breaths were finally up. However, the emperor did not disperse his might. Qin Feiyang's feet were already faintly trembling. Blood splattered all over his body, dyeing the sky red. His consciousness was also dizzy. He could clearly sense that the aura of the Grim Reaper was descending. I, Qin Feiyang, will never admit defeat, abruptly. He let out a hysterical roar, raised his head with difficulty, and stared at the emperor. His eyes were filled with incomparable determination. If the emperor didn't stop, he wouldn't retreat either. Even if the result was to pay with his life, he would still fight to the end. Another 3 breaths passed. The emperor's eyes flashed slightly, and he finally withdrew his might. Qin Feiyang also immediately fell down powerlessly. At this moment, he was really tired. Moreover, every part of his body was emitting a heart-wrenching pain. This time, he had truly tasted what it meant to be in so much pain that he wished he was dead. He really wanted to fall asleep like this. He didn't wake up. However, deep in his heart, there was a voice telling him that the battle had not yet begun. How could he fall here? Boom! All of a sudden, a terrifying aura surged out from his body. This aura had already surpassed his original aura. It was a 3-star war ancestor. What? He actually broke through at this time? The eyes of the people below were filled with surprise and bewilderment. Facing this kind of situation, shouldn't he be seriously injured and unconscious? Amazing. Yeah, to be able to break through at this time, it's hard to imagine how he was able to walk through it in the past. Qin Zhong sighed. He has an unyielding and unforgiving heart. When encountering a powerful enemy, he will not fall, but will only become stronger. The beautiful woman laughed. Qin Zhong and the other nodded. This heart of a strong person was not something that everyone had. It required a long period of tempering. It also required experiencing pain that others could not bear, as well as setbacks. Seeing that Qin Feiyang was about to fall to the ground, he suddenly turned in the air and stood firmly in the air. Following that, he swallowed a healing pill, and with an unyielding will, he once again rushed into the sky and stood in the air with the emperor. Let's begin. The emperor looked at him deeply, and without any superfluous words, he stepped on the air and walked towards Qin Feiyang step by step. With every step he took, his aura would fall by a realm. At the same time, Qin Feiyang also stepped forward and walked towards the emperor. Just before the two met, the emperor's aura had fallen to a 3-star war master. What's the situation? Everyone below was surprised. Didn't you hear Qin Feiyang say that he wants the emperor to have a fair fight with him? This fair battle means that the overlord will suppress his own cultivation to the same level as Qin Feiyang's. The commander of the Black Iron Army explained. So that's how it is. Only then did everyone understand. However, even if they are in the same realm, Qin Feiyang will lose without a doubt. Because no one in the world can shake the emperor's might. The commander said. Boom. During the conversation, Qin Feiyang and the emperor had already collided. Neither of them said a word and attacked each other with all their might. Crash! The emperor waved his hand, and a golden battle chi emerged, turning into a sky-covering angry wave that rushed towards Qin Feiyang. This golden battle chi did not have a terrifying sharpness, but it contained a shocking dragon's might. Even looking at the golden waves made one feel as if they were looking at countless golden dragons roaring in the void. This was the golden dragon battle chi. And the emperor's battle soul was the golden dragon battle soul. For a moment. In this world, the emperor's might and the dragon's might coexisted. When the crowd below felt this, they could not help but feel a deep sense of awe. However, Qin Feiyang's face was full of disdain. Clang! He waved his hand, and a red sword chi surged. Every trace of battle chi was like a sharp blade. Boom! He took a step forward and punched the emperor. Two different types of battle chi suddenly burst out in the sky like fireworks. It was gorgeous and colorful, but it hid a terrifying killing intent. Puff! Qin Feiyang spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated dozens of feet. The emperor was as steady as Mount Tai. Then, the two of them took a step forward at the same time and attacked each other. It was not because Qin Feiyang's strength was inferior to the emperor's. It was because even though the emperor suppressed his realm, whether it was the lethality of battle chi or the quality of his physical body, he was much stronger than Qin Feiyang. Therefore, this battle was destined to be a tough one for Qin Feiyang. If he wanted to win, he had to work harder and more fiercely than before. Even if he loses this battle, his name will be remembered forever. The beautiful woman smiled. Yes, in today's world, he is the first person who dares to challenge His Majesty. Qin Zhong and the emperor's feelings were very complicated. Although this man was only a friend of Her Highness, he did not hesitate to fight with the emperor for Her Highness. But what about them? They saw Her Highness being killed and their lord being wronged, but they did not dare to say a word. They felt ashamed. Bang! Bang! High in the sky. Two figures shuttled back and forth like lightning, fighting crazily. The golden dragon battle chi and the red sword chi turned into two giant storms, sweeping across the sky. Qin Feiyang was covered in blood, and his black hair had turned dark red. But his fighting spirit and battle intent were getting more and more terrifying. His whole person was like a peerless sword, exuding a terrifying sharpness. Do you regret what happened to the 14th prince? Qin Feiyang asked. At the same time, the red sword chi rose from behind him, and 30 flaming sword shadows appeared in an instant. A bone-piercing sharpness surged out in all directions, covering the sky and covering the earth. No. The emperor shook his head. Then today, I will make you regret it. Qin Feiyang's eyes were like lightning, and the 30 sword shadows trembled in the void at the same time, producing an earth-shattering sound of metal. Each of these sword shadows contains the hatred and anger of the 14th prince. Can you take it? Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the 30 sword shadows suddenly swarmed out, slashing at the emperor one after another. But the emperor was still expressionless. He stretched out his arm, and the golden dragon battle chi gushed out. In the void in front of him, golden divine dragons appeared one after another. In the end, there were exactly 30 golden dragons. Each of them was dozens of feet long, and they looked as if they were cast in gold. Each of the dragon scales shone with a dazzling light. The mighty dragon power shook the 9 heavens and 10 lands. This is my will, can you take it? Chapter 728. Boom! On one side was Qin Feiyang's anger. On the other side was the emperor's will. The collision of anger and will caused heaven and earth to tremble at this moment. Even the radiance of the sun was overshadowed. Awo! Clang! Accompanied by a series of wails, the 30 golden streaks continued to disintegrate. The 30 sword shadows were also collapsing. The rain of light sprinkled down and dyed the sky, as well as Qin Feiyang's face that was filled with anger. Every time a sword shadow collapsed, it would cause him a bit of damage. The corner of his mouth was bleeding non-stop. But this time, he did not take a step back. His legs seemed to have fused with the void. On the other hand, the Emperor. Every time they collided, he would take a step back and his face would turn pale. It was not until the 29th collision that Qin Feiyang took a step back. But the Emperor had already taken 29 steps back. It seems that the 14th prince's anger and hatred are stronger. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the remaining red sword qi in his body all gushed out and converged into the last sword shadow. Clang! That sword shadow suddenly continued to expand. Finally, a gigantic sword that could split the heavens appeared high up in the sky. Its entire body was surrounded by flames. The surrounding fire waves covered the sky. The sharpness tore the heavens and split the earth. Kill! Qin Feiyang roared angrily. The giant sword trembled in the air, and with a deafening clang, it slashed out angrily. This sword was like a sword that could split the heavens and earth. The sword qi surged and was unstoppable. Below, those who were not as strong as the War Master felt as if they had fallen into hell at this moment. They could not help but feel cold all over. Swish! The Emperor looked at Qin Feiyang, his eyes flickering. Then he raised his head and looked at the sword shadow. He could clearly sense that the sword shadow contained a strong resentment and hostility. Suddenly, two sharp rays of light burst out of his eyes. He raised his arm and battle qi gushed out from his fingertips. The last golden dragon also expanded in the wind. In an instant, a golden divine dragon that was thousands of feet long and surging with dragons might appeared out of nowhere. Roar! Following closely, the golden dragon dragged its huge body and bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it pounced towards Jianing. Boom! The two behemoths collided at the top of the clouds with a loud bang, causing an earth-shaking explosion. It was like rolling thunder, deafening to the ears. The clouds were torn apart. Everything within a radius of several hundred miles was covered in a layer of golden and fiery red light. Pooh! Qin Feiyang spat out another mouthful of blood. His body flew out like a meteor. The Emperor was also retreating frantically. The blood in his body was surging, and his face was flushed red. In the end, he still couldn't hold it in. With a cry, blood spurted out from his mouth. What? His Majesty is actually injured. Everyone in the imperial palace looked at this scene in disbelief. The Emperor was the Emperor of the 9 and 5, yet he was still able to injure him. Wasn't this Qin Feiyang a little too cruel? Is this all you've got? In the crowd, Zhuge Mingyang mumbled to himself. If it was him, he would definitely not be able to do it. He might not even be able to touch a strand of the Emperor's hair. However, not only could Qin Feiyang force the Emperor to retreat, but he could also injure the Emperor to vomit blood. Just this point alone was enough to dominate the younger generation of the great Qin Empire. Boom! High in the sky, Qin Feiyang stepped into the void, stabilized his body, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and looked at the Emperor. I said that I will make you regret it, and I will definitely make you regret it. Boom! His voice fell. A wave of fire rushed out from his body. The void within a radius of several miles instantly turned into a sea of fire. The temperature soared rapidly. At this moment, this world seemed to have turned into a big furnace. This is another kind of battle qi. He actually activated 2 battle souls. Those who didn't know were shocked. Those who had investigated Qin Feiyang's background were also shocked. 2 battle souls, rare in the world. It was no exaggeration to say that it was hard to meet one in 1,000 years. Such a monster was simply not comparable to ordinary people. If he didn't die, he would definitely become a peerless powerhouse that would make the world tremble in fear. Crash! Roar! At the same time, an even more majestic golden dragon battle chi rushed out from the emperor's body, and there was even a faint dragon roar. Looking at the emperor's cold face, the anger in Qin Feiyang's heart was like the fire waves around him, uncontrollable. All the flames condensed together in an instant, as if turning into a fire dragon, roaring in the sky, pouncing crazily towards the emperor. But at the same time, the emperor pointed to the sky, and the golden dragon battle chi surged out like a torrent of beasts, fiercely colliding with the fire dragon formed by the flames. This time, neither of them used any battle arts. But the loud sound produced by the collision of the two battle chi shook the entire imperial palace. Boom! At the same time, Qin Feiyang's body shook, and immediately crashed into the bright sky palace below like a meteorite. Qin Feiyang's expression changed. The bright sky palace was his mother's hope, and it could not be destroyed. But at this moment, he couldn't control it at all. No, finally. Accompanied by an unwilling roar, he crashed into the ground of the bright sky palace. The ground was instantly torn apart. Cracks spread out in all directions like a spider web. Boom! Crack! In just an instant, the entire bright sky palace was razed to the ground. And the emperor was also sent flying, blood splattering all over as he crashed into a palace in the distance. With a loud bang, the palace also shattered and turned into ruins. Boom! But also at the same time, the two shot out from the ruins and stood in the sky. The difference was, the emperor didn't care about the destroyed palace at all, and his gaze swept directly towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang lowered his head, looking at the bright sky palace, his heart bleeding. He didn't have much feelings for the bright sky palace. He even hated this place very much. The reason for that was because it was here that his cultivation had been crippled. But now, he knew that every blade of grass and every tree here was his mother's blood, sweat, and tears. Destroyed by him just like that, his heart ached and he felt guilty. Sigh. Below. Looking at Qin Feiyang's expression, the beautiful woman secretly took a deep look and said with a smile, "You don't have to blame yourself because this place no longer has any meaning to exist." Is that so? Qin Feiyang looked at his mother and asked. The beautiful woman nodded. Thank you. Qin Feiyang smiled. He felt relieved. Since his mother said so, this place should indeed disappear. It could also be considered as cutting off the only fetter in his heart. Swish. He looked up at the emperor and sneered, "Until now, you still don't feel the slightest bit of guilt. The emperor family is the most ruthless, this sentence is indeed true." Yes. So, you shouldn't have come to this place. The emperor said calmly. Wrong. I have never regretted coming here. Even if I die today, I want to die knowing why. Qin Feiyang roared, bristling with anger. The reason why he was so angry was because he could tell that the emperor had already seen through his identity. But he still didn't feel sorry for him. He couldn't tolerate it. Clang. Accompanied by a loud sound, the red sword soul rushed into the sky. Awaken. Qin Feiyang roared. The red sword soul suddenly shone brightly, and a huge flaming beast shadow roared out from the sword soul. This beast shadow was just a shadow in the past, but now, it could be seen in its embryonic form. It looked a little like a horse and a little like a donkey, and it was impossible to tell them apart. But it didn't affect anything. On the contrary, the aura and ferocious aura of the beast shadow were more terrifying than before. Roar. Clang. As soon as the beast shadow appeared, the red sword soul and the beast shadow flew side by side, diving toward the emperor. At this moment, the sky above the imperial palace was howling with fiery clouds surging. That scene was as if a terrifying demon king was breaking through the boundary. Clang! Looking at the fighting soul, the emperor's expression remained unchanged, and his eyes were calm. He gave people the feeling that nothing in this world could make his heart palpitate. Clang! Similarly, he didn't show any mercy. Accompanied by an earth-shattering dragon roar, a golden divine dragon soared into the sky from behind him. In an instant, the imperial palace was drowned by the terrifying dragon force. His Majesty has activated his fighting soul. Looking at the golden dragon dancing in the sky, the people below were shocked to the extreme, including the commander of the invincible Black Army. After staying by the emperor's side for so many years, it was his first time seeing the emperor activate his golden dragon fighting soul. Others didn't know, but he knew. Although the emperor looked expressionless and didn't take Qin Feiyang seriously, he was actually afraid of Qin Feiyang in his heart. Boom! At this moment, the battle in the sky started again. He looked up, and there was a trace of horror in his eyes. The red sword soul and the beast shadow had forcefully blasted the emperor's golden dragon fighting soul away. Even the golden dragon's head showed signs of collapsing. However, Qin Feiyang's fighting soul was unscathed. How could this be? Although the emperor had suppressed his cultivation, the power of his fighting soul was not something that Qin Feiyang's fighting soul could compare with. A sword soul and a beast soul, which was equivalent to two fighting souls. What was the origin of this fighting soul? The commander was shocked. The rest of the people were also shocked and could not calm down for a long time. However, the emperor's heart did not waver at all. Emperor Prison, he said calmly. The golden dragon fighting soul that had been blasted away started to shrink rapidly. Finally, it turned into a human figure. Furthermore, that humanoid figure, regardless of whether it was the body shape or the face, was exactly the same as the emperor. Those who didn't know would definitely think that it was the emperor's twin brother. Qin Feiyang was also extremely shocked. This was the first time he had seen a fighting soul turn into a human figure and look exactly the same as its owner. Moreover, the human figure fighting soul exuded a strong emperor's aura. It was as if the void had solidified. Qin Feiyang stood in the void, unable to move. The red sword soul was also unable to move. I remember now. This Emperor Prison is the golden dragon fighting soul's innate superpower. The world is vast and all lands belong to the emperor. All lands belong to the emperor's servants. Under the Emperor Prison, no living thing has the strength to fight back, Qin Zhong said in a low voice, his eyes filled with fear. The beautiful lady said with a smile, however, I believe that Qin Feiyang has a way to break it. Really? Qin Zhong mumbled.